But now on 7, the burning question is, can the sleuthing man in the corner solve his last case before those waitresses finally kick him out of the ABC corner house? Well, you'll find out over the next 45 minutes as friend Polly plies the tea house detective with one last plateful of cakes and another tantalising mystery.
She explained that a literary magazine, though not strictly speaking journalism, could use many of the skills I already have. I said, what exactly? She said, well, it's all language, isn't it? I think she used the word communication.
Oh, dear.
She may have done. She may not have done. She said that I would be dealing with some of the best writers of our age, of this age, or any age, in fact. Then she bought another bottle of Dom Perignon and asked me for my initial reactions. Do you want another cup of tea?
And you told her?
I said I'd think about it.
But you haven't made up your mind.
I wanted to ask you what you thought.
Well, what should I say?
Well, that's why I'm asking.
No, Polly.
What?
That isn't why you're asking. We ask for advice only in order to reject it.
I would like your opinion.
Any fool can have an opinion, and usually does.
I see.
What?
You're not going to help me.
I thought if you needed help...
Yes? I do. I need advice. I have been offered an interesting opportunity, a change of direction.
A flat in Paris.
The chance to meet interesting people, new experiences. I have felt for some time that perhaps I would never be anything but a second-rate reporter. I saw myself in my 40s, 50s, still covering wealthy people's weddings, and suddenly, this opportunity. Well, I feel I would be mad to reject it, wouldn't I? There. You have helped me. By your silence. I'm going.
Did you say something about another cup of tea?
John.
What is the thing?
John.
At rock bottom. I mean, what is the thing?
Don't you think it's time to go?
The thing, Walter, assumes various guises, but at its base, it's always the same.
Pass on the best and leave.
No! You see? And what is the difference between us? You know what it is. You stick when I twist.
You bust.
Why? Why is that? Why do I go on when others turn back? It is because I have seen the thing. And the thing is, our lives are ruled by chance.
You have no more funds, John.
Then you see? You see? This is the thing. That is the point at which you and others like you resign from play. But it is precisely now, on the curve of ruin and failure, that victory is granted.
Or withheld.
Oh, Walter, the blessing that is coming my way. Can't you feel it?
So how did you leave it?
I said I'd contact her by 4 o'clock today.
That should be enough time.
What for?
I'd been meaning to talk something over with you.
A case?
Yes, I'd very much like your opinion, Polly.
Is it complex?
That's always been our task, hasn't it?
What?
To uncover the simplicity at the heart. To adhere to the facts at all costs. It's all to do with the quality of our attention. We must look without motive.
We always have a motive, don't we?
Do you?
I'm not sure.
Say it.
The pleasure of solving a puzzle.
Go on.
The satisfaction of making sense of an apparent mystery.
A little further.
Self-esteem, pride, security.
Then the search for security becomes the fact, in which case you will not see the fact you wish to understand.
Then how can we begin?
There is no how.
Then what?
Don't get involved in techniques. The quality of attention, I said, Polly. Without motive. Oh.
What?
You may be too busy to think about this.
No.
What about Mrs. Vanderbilt?
Oh, she can wait.
I don't want to trespass on your private life, Polly.
I'll let you know.
If you're sure.
Yes.
2 men, 2 young blades, friends since public school. companions in the roistering life of London clubs and gambling houses.
When?
Last year. Have you ever been to one of these establishments, Polly?
No.
The swish of impossibly thick carpets, the clunk of wooden chips on a green baize table, everything arranged for your pleasure beneath vast chandeliers.
I once put 2 shillings on the Derby.
Did it win?
No.
No. This is a hushed world. Around the tables, clients are withdrawn in a strange earnestness over games which are both civilized and vicious.
I'll take 2.
2 cards, Mr. Ashley.
Only 2? And raise.
You're bluffing, Mr. Ashley.
Is that what you think?
That's what I think. I've been watching you.
Then raise.
Oh, I raise. £200.
£200?
It's on the table. Fold or cover. You want to see my cards? They're very good cards.
You're lying.
I'm lying?
I've been watching you.
Ah, then you must know these cards are good. Well, Mr. Ashley?
Your 200 and my 200. I raise you.
John, please.
The last of your money, Mr. Ashley.
Well, you may leave if you like.
You're 200. And I think I'll raise 200.
I don't have it.
You already owe me money.
I know that.
Fold your cards away then.
Take it. Show me your cards.
I don't have to show you my cards.
Show them to me. Nothing.
On the contrary, very good cards.
The Harwood Club.
Yes?
You've heard of it?
Hanover Square?
Yes. It's another country, Polly, requiring only the passport of wealth to enter.
Full of sports and debutantes.
And a strand, not in all of them, but some, the well-documented thread of self-destruction. When you look into their faces behind the smiles, you see fear. What is that?
Fear of what?
I don't know. Fear of themselves.
Why should...
Behind the excitement, like children who begin screaming and can't stop.
Who?
And long to be stopped.
Who was screaming?
And long for Mummy or Daddy to come and wake them from the nightmare of their happiness.
Who was screaming?
Their victim.
Help! Help me! For the love of God! Help me, someone!
And then came running the policeman.
Tell me.
Last year, February, a foggy evening, deep, dank, even on the walls of the houses of the rich. Park Crescent.
Ah, very nice.
At 3 a.m., residents are awoken by shouts, screams, and 2 shots.
And?
A body. The constable trips over it in the fog. He turns it over and shines his torch. A face both white and purple, its tongue reaching outwards like a creature from its hole, a scream frozen in the night air.
Strangled?
Yes.
So, the shots?
2 shots.
Who fired them?
Who could have fired them, Polly?
The murderer? Were there bullet holes in the body?
No.
So, he might have fired, missed, and then strangled him, or strangled first, tried to finish him off with the gun, and then missed.
Yes. Or?
The victim had the gun, tried to shoot his attacker, presumably missed. Any blood?
No, but the pistol was there. It was a pistol, did I say?
Where?
On the ground by the body. The shots had attracted a few residents who stood peering over the constable's shoulder. They identified him. Edouard Latigue.
Well?
He'd come from the Harwood Club, walked, and was nearly home when he was killed.
Was he a sport?
Not exactly. In fact, he was something of an outsider. A stockbroker, wealthy.
A foreign merchant?
In fact, yes. You've moved on to motive now, have you?
He was an outsider, and aristocracy always envies new money.
So you think...
A ritual slaughter, a rite of initiation by a crazed group of toffs.
Little pink press for us, Polly. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Not so much imagination.
Robbery? Not robbery.
Monsieur Latigue had been very lucky on the blackjack table. Now, when he left the Harwood, he was carrying the best part of £6,000.
And when they found him?
His pockets were empty.
Oh.
You're disappointed?
It's so banal.
Well, nonetheless, a man wins a large sum of money at a casino. The club is crowded, and many people see him pocket his winnings and leave the club.
When was that?
At 2 a.m.
So the suspect...
was either in the Harwood that night or was tipped off by someone in the club.
Why?
Yes?
Why were there shots fired?
It's the wrong question at this moment, Pauline.
Whose gun was it then?
Yes.
Well?
It belonged to a man named John Ashley.
John,
I just want to say...
No!
I just want to speak to him. Can I do that?
Let him.
Let me, do you hear? Latigue, how much do I owe you?
I haven't counted.
Count.
You want me to look at my book?
Yes.
Is that what you want? You want to be sure how much you owe me?
You see?
15.
It can't be.
£1,500.
No.
You asked. That's what it is.
come on.
He's lying.
Mr. Ashley,
All right.
I'm not calling the debt in. Just yet.
No? I'll tell you what. What about this? I'll be frank with you. I do not have access to those funds.
No.
I do not. It is not a case of asking my father, because my father would say no. You see? Here's an offer. We make one last bet. On anything.
Oh, Mr. Ashley.
Yes? If you win, you can decide what you want. It's an offer.
If I win, I can have what I want.
Yes.
I've got what I want.
Why don't we go?
Because I'm offering him...
You're not offering me anything.
What do you want?
And if you win...
We cancel whatever I owe you. I'll offer you something, shall I? I'll tell you what. My inheritance. Everything. I'll give it to you.
You haven't got it?
It's coming.
Listen, John.
What? Do you want it?
What's the bet?
This is it.
You can't.
What does that mean? I'm thinking. Listen. The bet has to be without meaning, as far as possible. It has to offer a set of circumstances in which chance rules. Pure chance. In which you say and I say something will happen at a place, at a time, something... Example of what I mean. No. Let's say... Where do you live?
Park Crescent.
Are you going there when you leave here?
Oh, what is it?
You don't want to tell me?
Oh, I'm going home, so...
All right. A place. A set of circumstances I will give if I think of it. And you choose the time. Now. The fog. This evening, yes?
So?
It comes and goes. It may be foggy now. It may have lifted. Why don't we bet on it? I will meet you in Park Crescent. You choose the time. If it's foggy when we meet, you win my inheritance. If it isn't, you cancel what I owe you.
This is winter, Ashley. The fog is thick.
Fine, then have it the other way. If the fog is still down, we cancel my debt. If it's lifted when we meet, you will have everything I inherit. Well, isn't that a bet?
So, what is fog? I mean, we could argue about that. Is it down? Isn't it? You know?
How do we decide?
Well,
I will stand behind you. 10 feet away, I will whistle. I will take up my position. You will turn and point. If you can see me, we will say the fog has lifted. If you cannot, then we will consider it down. Is that a bet?
Yes.
Then name the time, Mr. Latigue. Give me a time.
What kind of man was Ashley?
Well, as I said, he...
A lunatic?
A certain amount of inbreeding, certainly, but I don't think lunacy. No, he was an extremist, I would say. Someone whose life was spent in the pursuit of extreme measures which he took because not taking them was worse for him.
That's what I said, a lunatic.
You mustn't be so critical of our ruling classes, Polly. Centuries of power and privilege may render a person erratic, but not necessarily insane.
So it was his pistol?
Yeah. The jury were shocked when they heard that.
The jury? You mean...
They weren't all like you, eager to decapitate him on the grounds of his pedigree.
He was arrested, is that...
Yes. The forces of law and order considered it open and shut. Which, of course, is their favourite kind of case. Anything that saves paperwork has their vote. Yes, but it wasn't going to be that straightforward. Not when they got him to court.
Constable Funnel, you were the first police officer on the scene on the night, or rather the morning, of February the 6th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Please tell the court what you heard and saw.
I was on patrol in Portland Place, walking north, when I heard shouts, and that was quickly followed by 2 shots.
First the shouts, and then the shots.
Yes, sir.
And what did you do?
I blew my whistle to summon assistance, and I ran towards where the shots had come from.
Which led you into Park Crescent?
Yes, sir.
Go on.
It was a very foggy night,
Yes.
and there was no sound when I got there, so I had to shine my torch around, and I found a body.
A body later identified as Edward Latigue, a resident of 30 Park Square West. Go on, Constable Funnel.
The man was dead. Next to his body was a pistol.
Tell the court, as a good and efficient policeman, you searched the area.
Yes, sir.
And what else did you find?
I found 2 keys over by the Iron Gate, which leads into the tunnel.
Yes.
That joins the Marylebone Road.
And were these keys later identified as belonging to the deceased, Edward Latigue?
One was a key to his house, 30 Park Square West, and the other was the key to the Iron Gate.
Was the Iron Gate locked?
It was open, sir.
Do you regularly patrol that area? Is that your beat?
Yes, sir.
So you were on duty earlier that evening?
Yes, sir. I came on duty at 10 that night.
And you patrol back and forth, keeping your wary and experienced eye out for villainy and so forth? I'm sure you do. Now, towards 3 a.m., you hear shouts and 2 shots. You were on your way back to the square then?
Yes.
And presumably you'd already been through the square several times that evening.
Every half hour.
So you were there at 2:30 or thereabouts?
Yes, sir.
Please tell the court what you heard.
I was leaving the square, going south, when I picked up the sound of a man's voice.
Coming from the square?
That's right. I looked back and I could see 2 men together, standing close and talking.
You could hear them talking?
I heard one man say, "It's a question of time, Mr. Latigue. If you will only wait, my father will pay. You will lose nothing by it."
It's a question of time, Mr. Latigue. If you will only wait, my father will pay. You will lose nothing by it. And the other man, you heard his reply?
Well, I'd moved on by then, sir. I don't know what the other gentleman said to him.
No further questions.
Your witness, Mr. Tucker.
I have no questions of this witness, Your Honour.
I know where this is going.
Do you?
It looks bad for Ashley.
But?
Therefore, he's innocent.
And can you...
Get him off?
And is this a game?
What?
You have sometimes accused me of discussing the fate of human beings in terms appropriate to a parlour game. I'm repeating it to you.
No, I'm in earnest. I think I can get him off.
Then go ahead.
I mean, it's all too obvious. Is life like that?
Life? Life, Polly?
It's too pat, isn't it?
I think life can be surprisingly pat, and banal, and predictable.
Hold on, may I?
You were saying?
Ashley owes Latigue money.
£1,500.
He announces it almost. Does he? And then a very public argument followed by an outrageous bet.
And who heard that?
Many. You're saying it didn't happen?
I'm saying stay with the facts. He has a motive. His pistol is found next to the body.
And?
I don't understand.
It wasn't used to kill.
We don't know that. It was fired twice.
He gave it to Latigue, didn't he?
Did he?
Didn't he?
Only Heatherall was close enough to see.
Why would he invent that story?
Many reasons. To protect his friend, for a start.
Is that what you're saying?
Why so fast, Polly?
Fast?
I sense an over-hasty approach.
I said I was in earnest.
Perhaps...
What?
I was wrong to drag you into this. Your decision. Is it weighing heavily?
Oh, I don't think so. I would like to find the answer to this.
Before you go?
Yes. Yes, or... Can't we go on? Can't we just go on?
Yes. Let's deal with the policeman's evidence.
2 men overheard talking.
2 men talking together.
What?
The facts, Polly.
All right, standing together. One of the men asks the other to wait to collect his debt that his father will pay.
He cautions patience, yes.
Did the police find anyone else who was in debt to Latigue?
No.
So, a half hour before Latigue is murdered, he is seen with Ashley, and Ashley is begging for more time.
And?
Obviously, Ashley did it. Therefore, by the inverse law of probability transference, someone else did it. Eh? Joking, just joking.
The right question shakes the facts, Polly. What is the right question?
Is Ashley stupid?
No, he isn't. And one more.
Why didn't the defense lawyer ask any questions?
Good.
Mr. Heatherall, you are a close friend of the defendant.
Yes, I am.
You know him very well?
I think I do.
You think you do? You think you do? And in what state of mind was he on the night of February the 5th?
He was agitated, perhaps you might say.
What was he agitated about?
I
Was he agitated about debts he owed?
don't know if that was the principal.
Was he agitated about his gambling debts? Yes or no?
Well, clearly he was worried.
And yet, heavily in debt, he continued gambling. Was he in an agitated state because of his intense wish to recoup his losses and his growing realization that he would fail to do so? Would you say that...
Shall we let him answer, Sir Andrew?
I apologize.
He was under great pressure, yes.
Thank you. Would you say your friend was addicted to gambling?
Yes.
And you had many times tried to dissuade him from gambling?
Yes.
And indeed had tried to dissuade him on the evening of February the 5th.
That's true.
However, he went to the Harwood Club against your advice, and there lost heavily to Mr. Latigue. Is that correct?
Yes.
What time did he leave the club?
We left at about 20 to 2.
You left with him?
Yes. I walked with Mr. Ashley as far as New Bond Street, and we parted there.
And where did you understand that the defendant was going?
He said he wanted to clear his head and he intended to walk along Piccadilly. I went back to the Harwood.
I see. Were you worried about your friend when you left him?
No, as I say, he was calmer. He was much calmer, and I knew he was all right. I felt he was all right, anyway. It was... With John, these things blow up and then pass. I wasn't worried.
Thank you.
Mr. Tucker?
No questions, my lord.
The Crown prosecution was in the hands of Sir Andrew Laidlaw. A face to make children cry, certainly, but as lawyers go, no fool. He felt he had his man.
Well, yes.
The evidence kept piling up, don't you think so? And yet the defense lawyer, Toby Tucker, stayed sitting on his ample haunches throughout.
What was he up to?
Tucker was a second stringer.
Meaning?
Fighting against Laidlaw, he was, in boxing parlance, punching well over his weight. Tucker's reputation is earnest ineptitude. If you want to save your life, hire someone else.
So why...
I listened to the evidence, Polly. I counted the oohs and ahs in the public gallery as overwhelming evidence was piled on overwhelming evidence.
But you weren't convinced?
What did you call it? The law of what?
Secondary transference...
Yes.
Something. I don't know what I said.
It wasn't that exactly. It was... I felt I was watching a play in which everyone knew their lines, and in which all the characters acted convincingly enough, and yet my dominant feeling was disbelief.
So you waited?
So I waited.
Mr. Cowper, you are the defendant's butler, are you not?
I am, sir.
And taking your mind back to the night of 5th, 6th of February, you remember your master going out initially?
He went out, sir, that's right, I remember, at about 10 o'clock.
Did he indicate at all, Mr. Cowper, when you might see him again?
No.
Very good. Then when did you see your master again?
He came in at about 10 to 2. He went again almost straight away.
Did he say why he had made such a brief visit?
He said he'd come to check some business papers.
Did he take anything else with him?
I don't know, sir.
Do you recognize this pistol, Mr. Cowper?
Yes, sir.
Where have you seen it before?
I've seen it many times before, sir. In its case where it's kept.
In its case where it's kept? And where is that, Mr. Cowper?
In Mr. Ashley's bedroom, sir. It's his pistol.
No further questions, my lord.
Mr. Tucker? If you have questions, I would ask them now.
I have no questions, Your Honour.
You do not seem to be availing yourself of the opportunity to cross-examine prosecution witnesses. You know what you're doing, do you?
I do, my lord. I have no questions of this witness.
Very well. Next witness, please, Sir Andrew.
I kept my eye on Mr. Tucker. No smoke screen, no leaping to his feet, no attempts to divert the jury, to undermine the witnesses. Nothing.
But the pistol...
Yes. How did it get to the scene of the murder?
The murderer brought it.
In which case...
I mean, despite your unease...
Yes.
Ashley was going to the gallows.
No, he wasn't.
Mr. Ashley, you have heard the evidence against you. You have heard as we have. Constable Funnell state that he saw you at 2:30, engaged in urgent conversation with Mr. Latigue. What have you to say to that?
That wasn't me.
You did not speak to Mr. Latigue.
No.
You did not say... It's a question of time, Mr. Latigue. If you wait, if you will only wait, my father will pay. You will lose nothing by it.
No, I didn't.
You're suggesting that it was someone else?
Certainly. It wasn't me.
When did you last see Mr. Latigue?
At the club, the Harwood, just before I left with Walter Heatherall.
At about 20 to 2.
I don't know, something like that.
You seem to be taking this very lightly, Mr. Ashley.
I just don't remember the time. My friend said 20 to 2. Fine. And that was the last I saw of Latigue.
You did not see him later?
No.
You did not intercept him on Park Crescent?
No.
Did you argue with Mr. Latigue?
When?
At any time?
Yes, we...
About what?
About money. He wouldn't let me gamble.
You owed him money?
Yes.
He was within his rights to deny you play. You are obsessed with gambling, aren't you? If you cannot gamble, you become incensed, don't you, Mr. Ashley?
Not exactly.
Mr. Latigue prevented you from doing the one thing you love, the one thing you live for. You became angry.
Yes.
You became violent.
No.
You wanted to kill him. To kill him would give you his winnings, would turn your loss into gain. It would cancel your debt. But above all, it would allow you the sweet pleasure of revenge on a man who had thwarted your obsessive passion for gambling.
No.
After parting from your friend in New Bond Street at about 10 to 2, you hurried home. You told your butler you had come to check papers, but in fact, you had come to arm yourself.
No, that isn't true.
You hurried back to Park Crescent, and under cover of the fog you attacked Mr. Latigue and strangled him. As he was dying, he screamed out in his terror for help, but you showed him no mercy. You took out your pistol, you shot at him, twice, missing both times, and fearful, hearing the alarmed calls of residents and a policeman's whistle, you dropped the pistol and fled. You made off with the money into the night, sparing not one thought for your victim. Is that not true?
It is not true.
I put it to you that it is true. That you committed this callous and calculated crime with one motive only, financial gain. And carried out your plan.
No.
And carried it out, I say, without mercy. Without feeling and without remorse.
I didn't do it, you know. I didn't exactly rejoice at his existence. I mean, I owed him money. I didn't kill him.
Can you explain this? How did your pistol, it is your pistol, isn't it?
Yes.
How did your pistol come to be lying on the ground next to the dead body of Mr. Latigue?
I gave it to him.
You gave it to him?
Certainly. In the club. I had it with me. I often carry it with me when it's foggy. I gave it to him. To protect himself.
You were concerned for his safety, is that your story?
I gave it to him.
And the shots, the 2 bullets fired?
I imagine he tried to use it to defend himself.
You wish us to believe that you were so concerned for the health of a man you despised that you gave him your gun?
That's what happened.
The contempt you showed for your victim's life, you now show for the credulity of this court. I have no further questions for this man, your lordship.
Do you intend to question your client, Mr. Tucker? I dare not think you will not, although on your current form you may not.
I do wish to question him, my lord.
Ah, very good, Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Ashley, you parted company with Mr. Heatherall at 10 to 2.
Yes.
What did you do then?
I went home. I had to check some business letters that I was expecting.
Your butler said you went out again soon afterwards.
That's correct.
Where did you go?
I went to my club.
The Harwood?
No, I went to the Talbot.
The Talbot Club on Piccadilly, is that right?
Yes.
And what did you do there?
I played bridge.
For how long?
Till late.
And when did you arrive at the Talbot?
At about 2:10.
And when did you leave?
About 5 a.m.
And so, from 2 o'clock until 5 o'clock, you were playing cards at the Talbot. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Did anybody see you during this time?
Of course. The club was crowded.
I mean, can you name one person who saw you and can testify to your being there?
Yes, I can.
My lord, I must protest. My learned friend is introducing a witness without prior reference to the prosecution. And at this late
Mr.
stage...
Tucker?
I beg your pardon, your worship, but the witness, whom my learned friend may wish to cross-examine in good time, has only just returned to the country. We had sought his return, but until this morning I had no firm knowledge that he would be here.
Sir Andrew?
Very well, my lord.
Proceed then, Mr. Tucker. Who is your witness?
I call Anthony Latigue.
And there stepped into the witness box a tall, gaunt-faced young man whose pallor alone was expressive of a profound discomfort.
Tucker had Latigue's son.
Had him and used him.
And did they allow it?
A victim's son to be called as a defense witness? Underhand, perhaps, but permissible. And, of course, it had its effect.
Ashley's alibi.
Yes, Polly.
Tight, eh?
Had the Titanic's rivets been as tight, it might not have gone down. For the first time during the case, Mr. Tucker smiled.
Mr. Latigue, I need not express to you our heartfelt commiserations at the loss of your father. His brutal murder is something you will never forget. However, the fact of his murder does not mean that the defendant, my client, is guilty.
I would be obliged if you would come to the questions, Mr. Tucker.
I have 3 questions only, your worship. Mr. Latigue, were you in the Talbot Club in Piccadilly on the night of the 5th and 6th February between the hours of 2:10 and 5 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, I was.
Could you speak up, please?
Yes, I was.
And did you play cards with another man during that time?
Yes.
I will be obliged if you would listen to my next question very carefully, for the life of a man depends on your answer. Do you see that man, the man you played cards with, in the court today? Mr. Latigue?
He is sitting over there. I played cards with the defendant, John Ashley.
The public gallery swallowed hard as though with one throat. The jury sighed. They were out for 10 minutes, and their verdict, when they delivered it, surprised no one.
He walked.
I looked at John Ashley as the judge apologized to him and spoke the words that released him.
His expression?
Yes.
What was it?
Blank. A complete blank. And then I knew.
Help! Help me! For the love of God, help me, someone!
What do you think, Polly?
What do I think?
Well, the case unravelled. Now, either a guilty man had been released, in which case how was it done, or someone else did it, in which case who and why.
You said you saw something. Did Walter Heatherall do it?
The faithful friend?
He had a motive.
Did he?
Loyalty.
Certainly that's what the police thought.
And?
They arrested Heatherall 2 days later.
So you disagreed?
Talk to me, Polly. Do you have time? It is delightful to me to talk with you, Polly. Have we not shared many intellectual adventures?
What?
Walk with me.
What do you mean?
Walk with me, Polly, through the bright landscape of deduction. You say, was it Heatherall? Walk.
Heatherall leaves the club with Ashley at 20 to 2, and then 10 minutes later...
Yes.
They part. Ashley goes home, and Heatherall returns to the club. Why?
Yes?
To keep an eye on Lateeg. In his evidence, he said that Lateeg was just leaving the club when he arrived. What if that wasn't true? What if Lateeg stayed at the club until 2:30, and when he left, Heatherall followed him to Park Crescent, and strangled and robbed him?
The shots?
Fired by Lateeg, as Ashley said. Am I wrong?
Oh, dear.
What?
It's 10 to 4, Polly.
Yes?
Mrs. Vanderbilt will be waiting for your answer.
I said, am I wrong?
I would hate, Polly, in the future for you to say that I had delayed you or held you back or...
I want to know. I want to know how it ended. Tell me.
That I don't know, Polly.
You don't? Well, you said you saw. Why don't you know?
You asked me how it ended. I say to you, I don't know. It hasn't ended.
Did you see him? Did you see him, Walter?
Yes. I wish you hadn't...
What? Are you getting moral on me? Did you see his face? You see, he is a gambler. That is, he's like me. You know, in a way, he's closer to me than you are. Because of that? Because another factor of a gambler, even when he's winning, he's won everything. If someone puts a proposition to him, put it his way, a bet, he can't help but be interested. You see, it isn't after all the winning. It isn't about accumulation of money. Did I say that? It's about the quivering thrill of taking an action whose end you cannot see. Makes you feel alive. Something we could say we did. One thing. We took a chance. We were not ordinary.
What is it?
I looked at his face in the dock as he was leaving.
Ashley?
Yes.
You said blank. It was blank.
Yes. The whole time. He had worn it the whole time.
He knew he was going to go free because of the alibi.
No, I mean something else. He was hidden, hiding, withdrawn in a world we could not imagine. Polly, I knew then that he had planned it all. I did not know how.
He was in the Talbot when the murder was... I mean, Lateeg's son, for heaven's sake, was his witness. I don't...
That's right. He would have needed an accomplice.
So Heatherall was involved?
Yes. Though I don't think he knew he would end up in the courts.
Tell me.
Ashley and Heatherall left the Harwood Club together.
Murder. Wouldn't that raise us to the ranks of the truly exceptional?
We'd be found out.
No, listen.
We walk up to Bond Street. Then you come back here where you'll be seen. I will go home and let Cowper see me. I will get my pistol.
But I mean, they'll know. Who else wants to kill Lateeg?
Exactly. I will be the suspect. I must be the suspect. I must be arrested and tried. I will give them the evidence. My pistol, fired and left by the body. Don't you see? Oh, Walter, we will be kings of the moment, won't we? We will be princes.
Then who will...
And don't worry. If you're going to worry, then you can't play. I'll do the killing. I'll kill him. And then afterwards, you will bring him back to life.
What do you mean?
You will lift him up and hold him and talk to him, just as the constable passes by, who will mark the time. He will then tell the court that he saw Lateeg alive at 2:30. I will be in the Talbot Club. At 3 a.m., you will fire 2 shots and begin shouting. You will drop the gun and let yourself into the tunnel to Marylebone Road. You see? Isn't it perfect? Walter?
Perfect.
Yes. The bet that Ashley had made with Lateeg in the club played its part. I have no doubt that Lateeg gave the time 2 a.m. when they would meet and examine the weather. And that night, no doubt, as Ashley knew, Lateeg's son, the star witness, would be in his club, the Talbot, where Ashley would find him and play cards with him, having only just strangled his father. And Heatherall, challenged in his dullness, as Ashley knew, went along, not foreseeing that he would be arrested.
But Ashley knew.
Oh, yes. That mask is capable of anything.
Why did he do it?
I don't know. To see if he could. Is that an explanation?
And Heatherall will hang?
Probably.
But won't he tell the police?
What? That he and Ashley conspired together to kill Lateeg, but Ashley has already been tried and released, and cannot be tried again.
So...
I don't think Heatherall will leave it there.
What can he do from the condemned cell?
Prisons reflect the society that has created them, Polly. Money talks there, as elsewhere. I suspect he'll buy his revenge before he hangs.
Gosh.
Oh, dear.
Now what?
It's gone 4. Mrs. Vanderbilt?
Yes. Well...
What will you do?
Where's the cake you ordered? Don't say Gillian's let you down.
Ah, Polly.
I'll be right back.
Who's that? No. No! Help! Help me! Oh, no!
In The London Mystery by Michael Butt, based on a story by Baroness Orczy, Bernard Hepton was the man in the corner and Suzanne Burton was Polly. Ashley was played by Alan Cox, Heatherall by Rupert Penry Jones, Lateeg by Michael Tudor Barnes, Laidlaw by Stephen Thorne, Tucker by Jonathan Keeble, and Funnel by Ian Brooker. Other parts were played by members of the cast. The Tea House Detective, directed by Celia de Wolf.
Is it?
I'm afraid it is. Blood.
Oh.
No doubt about that.
Oh.
Now, easy, baby. Take it easy.
But what's happened to the girl? Where is she now? And why did someone make up the bunk with clean sheets and blankets?
I don't know why, but... Come on, Doctor. Let's lift the mattress.
Very well.
Oh, my.
Good God.
What is it?
A razor. An old-fashioned cutthroat razor.
Beautifully made. The handle's ebony with a design in chased silver. The head and shoulders of a man with a razor in his fist. A barber.
There's something round his eyes. A bandage.
A blind barber. Oh, that's horrible.
Yes. The blind barber has been at work tonight.
We present The Blind Barber, a Dr. Fell mystery by John Dixon Carr, dramatized for radio by Peter Ligg. with Donald Sinden as Dr. Fell.
Extracts from notes made by me, Gideon Fell, returning from an American lecture tour on March the 4th, 1938, on board the SS Victoria. The voyage out had been uneventful, but the return journey was packed with incident, so I thought it best to cable Superintendent Hadley, asking him to meet me in Southampton at the offices of the Port Authority.
That's the last time I let you go gallivanting on your own.
Oh, come now, it's hardly my fault.
Oh, no. You should never have got involved with that young lady. What was her name again?
Peggy Glenn. And I did not get involved, you put it. Then we got into conversation, briefly, on the voyage out. She was on her way to meet her fiancé in New York, and we found we were both coming back on the same ship. It was just an amusing coincidence. Nothing more.
Oh, really?
Yes, really. And by that time she'd made another friend, a man called Curtis Warren.
Miss Glenn seems to have a talent for making friends. The sociable type, is she?
Oh, yes. So is Curtis. He's coming over from Washington to take up a post in the U.S. Consular Service.
Huh. One of those diplomatic stuffed shirts.
Oh, not at all, no. He's a regular daredevil.
I wonder how long he'll hold down the job.
So do I. He only got it because his uncle is a big noise on Capitol Hill. But there was one famous name on board. I expect you've heard of Lord Sturton.
The one they call the Hermit of Jermyn Street. Has no friends, collects rare jewellery.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. He had been in Washington to buy a particular item that was up for auction. Curtis's Uncle Waldo happened to know the old boy. He told Curtis, and Curtis told the rest of us. We managed to catch a glimpse of his lordship when he came aboard. A doddery old goat with side whiskers cursing everybody in sight, while his secretary steered him up the gangplank. And in his luggage was his latest prize, a fabulous pendant, the Emerald Elephant. I'd say it was priceless, except that it had a price, and old Sturton paid it. But, unfortunately...
Oh, don't tell me it's been stolen.
Oh, yes, that's one thing I do know.
And you know who stole it?
Yes, I did.
What?
Well, in a way we all did. After that, things got rather confused.
I think you'd better begin at the beginning.
Yes, it began on the 4th day out. I'd been taking a stroll on deck. The wind was getting up and there were storm clouds gathering. And then I happened to meet Peggy.
Dr. Fell, I was hoping I might find you.
Splendid. We can keep each other company.
I'm trying to find Curtis. Have you seen him?
Well, not since this morning. Why, is something wrong?
Oh, we arranged to meet for tea in the lounge, but he never turned up. I hope he's all right.
Perhaps his watch stopped.
But it's not like him to... Oh, here's someone.
Excuse me, Doctor. Could I have a word, sir?
Certainly. What is it?
Mr. Warren would like to see you in his cabin, sir.
What's happened? Is he all right?
Well, no serious damage, madam, but I think someone hit him. I left him sitting on the floor with a towel around his head and a bit of cinema film in his hands, swearing something handsome.
Come in.
Kurt! Oh, your poor head. Let me see.
Oh, don't touch. It's sore as hell.
I'm sure it is. What's been going on?
Who did it? Who attacked you?
I don't know. That's the trouble. Mind you, I didn't even know I had the darn thing. I thought I got rid of it.
Look, lie down on the bunk and we'll fetch the ship's doctor.
I haven't got time for that. See this bit of film? Hold it up to the light. What do you see?
Not a great deal. There seems to be a dignified, white-haired old gentleman in a dinner jacket.
His mouth's open. Is he making a speech?
And how? That's my Uncle Waldo. It's a home movie I shot at a party for his friends, senators and such like. They were knocking back the booze and making speeches.
When it got to Uncle Waldo's turn, he just let rip.
You mean he told them what he really thought?
Well, didn't he just? First the government, then he got onto world politics and gave his opinion about the top men in Germany, France, and Italy, with advice on foreign policy, telling them what they could do with their battleships. Well, don't laugh. This could start another war, and in the hands of a determined blackmailer.
You're right. It's no laughing matter. Someone deliberately stole the film.
Let me tell you what happened after the party.
I should think Uncle Waldo had a hangover.
And then some. When he got on the phone, I said I'd send in the film so he could destroy it. But, well, I wasn't at my best that morning. Somehow I got the cans of films mixed up. I sent him some cute shots of animals in the Bronx Zoo. Only I didn't discover that till today.
Discover it? How?
I had to go to the radio room. There was a cable for me. The radio operator read it out. He said it was either in code or someone had gone crazy. It said, "Checking film, very anxious. They look like bears. Where is real?
2 reels?
Different spelling.
Oh.
At first I couldn't make it out, but when it hit me, I ran down to check the films I'd brought with me. And I found someone in here opening up the cans.
But you didn't see who it was?
The curtain was drawn over the porthole. It was pretty dark. But I grabbed the film and hung on like grim death. That's when he bopped me over the head with a blackjack. When I came to, he'd gone. I had half the film in my hands, but what he's got is still dynamite.
You must tell the captain. Get him to search the whole ship.
No, I must get the film back without anyone finding out. I've got to find the guy that stole it. But how did he know about the film? I didn't even know about it myself.
That cablegram. The operator read it aloud. Was anyone else there who might have heard it?
Sure, there were other people around, but they couldn't possibly have understood it.
Unless someone else knew that film existed. Someone on board this ship who overheard the message and decided to take a chance.
Do you think he might come back to get the rest of the film? Oh, if he does, I'll be ready for him.
That's right. We'll tell everyone we found you lying unconscious. We can say you'd been drinking, and you fell over and hit your head.
Great. There goes my career in the diplomatic service.
I was only trying to help.
No, wait. You could say I fell over when the ship started to roll. It's getting pretty rough now. Say that I must be left alone, undisturbed. Then he might try to sneak back.
Well, suppose he does. Well, how will we catch him?
There's an empty cabin next door. We can lie low in there till we hear him. Then I'll go out and beat the living daylights out of him. How about that?
I had grave doubts about this plan, and I said as much. But my companions were determined, and in the end, I agreed to help them. At dinner time, we left Curtis in the empty cabin. We had been invited to join the captain's table, but by now there was a gale blowing. There were only 4 of us at the table. Peggy and I, Captain Whistler, and a Mr. Kyle, a Harley Street brain surgeon. Peggy apologized on Curtis's behalf and gave them her version of events.
Sorry to hear that. Knocked himself out, eh?
Oh, yes, Captain. You shouldn't keep the floors so highly polished. It's very dangerous.
I hope you're not suggesting we're responsible for the accident. Our shipping line has an excellent safety record.
Really? Well, what about the night the SS Gigantic went down?
Perhaps you could lower your voice a little. We don't want to start a panic, do we?
But in a rough sea like this, accidents could easily happen. Don't you agree, Mr. Kyle?
Yes, we seem to be in for some dirty weather.
Though they do say the skipper of the Gigantic was drunk when he hit that poor whale. I hope you're not a heavy drinker, Captain.
Steady on, my dear.
No, Miss Glenn, I'm most certainly not.
Oh, good. It's just that you seem a bit jumpy.
Jumpy?
I expect you're anxious about Lord Sturton and his emerald elephant, and I don't blame you. After all, if there were a jewel thief on board planning to steal it, as the man in charge, I suppose you'd be held responsible.
We're not discussing my problems. We were talking about Mr. Warren. Were you there when the accident happened, Dr. Fell?
No, but I saw him soon afterwards, and he did have a nasty lump on the back of his head.
I trust it didn't do any serious damage. What do you think, Mr. Kyle? You're a specialist in...
I'm a surgeon, not a physician. But from all I've heard, it sounds to me like a mild case of Legensis pullibus.
Oh, dear.
I dare say he'll soon recover.
Well, I certainly hope so. And now I must leave you. If you'll excuse me. Duty call.
Yes, of course, Captain.
A word of advice. You shouldn't tease the captain. I don't think he appreciates it.
I did try to warn you.
And by sheer chance, you touched him on the raw. It seems there really is a criminal on board.
Really? What makes you think so?
The captain told me before you joined us he'd just received a cable. It mentioned a suspect responsible for the Stelly job in Washington and the McGee killing. The FBI believe he's traveling under an alias, and they advised him to keep an eye on possible suspects.
Because of Sturton's priceless emerald?
The captain offered to keep it in his safe, but the old boy's famously eccentric and stubborn as a mule. However, I think the captain's trying to persuade him to change his mind.
Doctor, don't you think we'd better go and tell Kurt... I mean, make sure he's all right?
Oh, yes. Perhaps we should.
I don't know anything about the McGee killing, but I heard about the Stelly affair because the British Embassy was involved.
Oh, tell me.
Stelly was a well-known British jeweller, first-class chap, designed necklaces for royalty. He was staying in Washington, and the British ambassador asked him to reset a necklace for his wife. He was found some hours later, propped up against a lamppost, with the back of his head smashed in, and no sign of the necklace.
So Curtis got off lightly. Just a nasty headache.
But he wasn't attacked by a jewel thief. Your blackmailer only wanted a reel of film.
Well, so we thought. But when Peggy and I rejoined Curtis in the cabin, he disagreed.
I bet this guy came across my film by accident. He was probably looking for valuables.
But you haven't got any jewellery.
For all he knew, I could have had a pair of platinum cufflinks. Oh, wait till I get my hands on him.
Don't be silly. The man's dangerous.
I thought I heard. What? The door to your cabin. It opened, but I didn't hear it shut. What was that?
Oh, sounds like a girl. I thought she said...
What?
I know it's crazy, but it sounded like she was calling me. Come on. There, lying in the doorway of my cabin.
Warren. Mr. Curtis Warren.
She's passed out.
Who is she?
How do I know? She looks like she could be Greek, like the profile on an old Greek coin.
Yes, it's the same method. A blow to the back of the head.
You don't mean she's...
Oh, no. It's just a slight concussion, I think.
Give me a hand, Doc. Let's get her into the empty cabin.
Right.
1, 2, 3, hop!
Quite a way.
That's better. I've made her as comfortable as I can, but she's still bleeding a little. Kurt, you must fetch the ship's doctor.
But why was she trying to get into my cabin?
Are you quite sure you don't know her?
Certain. Except I've got a feeling I've seen her before somewhere. But I can't remember.
And that was your cabin door shutting.
Damn, he's come back. There he goes.
Who is it?
Whoever he is, he's got my can of film. Come on.
He's going out. On deck.
The ship was pitching violently. Trying to give chase down that lurching, tilting passageway was like being a ball on a pin table. We followed him outside into another world. A world of darkness, gale-force winds and crashing waves. I tried to warn the others. Be careful! Hang on to the rail! But the wind tore my words away. For a moment I was blinded by stinging spray. But then I saw the outline of a man. Curtis saw him too.
I'll get you this time!
And he launched himself at the villain. The metal tin fell from the man's grasp and skidded across the deck. Peggy caught it just before it rolled overboard. It was half open, and as she peered inside, her face changed.
I don't believe it.
The circular box was not made of tin, but of steel. Inside, on a cushion of white satin, was a green beast with ruby eyes and a golden chain. At that moment, Curtis rejoined us.
What the hell? That's not my film.
No, it's the emerald. But you got the thief.
Sure. right on the button. Lifted him clean off his feet. Well, he's out for the count, and he won't get far. I wedged him under the lifeboat.
Let me see. Oh, dear. What a pity.
Why? Kurt's a hero. He caught the thief.
I'm afraid not. This is Captain Whistler. He must have persuaded Lord Sturton to keep the emerald in the ship safe after... I think he's coming round.
Oh, he'll think I was stealing the elephant. He's never going to believe me.
Don't worry. Leave this to me.
What happened? Oh, I think I've broken my jaw. Oh, thieves. Murderers.
Oh, Captain, now, whatever have you been doing? No, don't move. Stay where you are. Have you been drinking again?
No, I have not been drinking. Oh, my head. Oh, stop fussing over me. Where did he go?
Try not to worry. I'm sure it will all be all right.
Where's the box? Where's my elephant?
Your elephant. I knew he'd been drinking.
Then, luckily, some of the crew arrived, and we left the captain to their tender care. But another shock awaited us. When we returned to Curtis's cabin, the rest of his film had gone. And when we looked in the cabin next door, the injured girl had gone too.
But it doesn't make sense. We left her here.
She must have made a pretty swift recovery. Unless she was faking it all along.
But why would she?
Suppose she was sent as a decoy to lure us away and give the thief time to get into my cabin.
No. There was nothing fake about her injury.
But the sheets and blankets aren't even creased. Well, it's as if she never existed. Look at the pillows. There isn't a spot of blood on them.
Blood? What's that about blood?
The captain had returned, and he was highly suspicious. We told him as much as we could about the missing girl. I admit it sounded rather improbable, but when Peggy promised we'd help him find the emerald, he brightened up.
Very well, I'm a fair-minded man. I'll give you one more chance.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. And so will my Uncle Waldo.
But I'm warning you, you have 24 hours to find that emerald elephant and the vanishing young lady, or there'll be trouble.
At least we didn't tell him about the missing film. Now all we got to do is find it.
And the elephant. Oh, but that won't take long.
Ah, yes. Where did you hide the jewel box?
Oh, that was easy. As soon as the captain started to come round, I posted it inside the nearest open porthole.
In someone's cabin? Wasn't that a little risky?
No. When we find the number of the cabin, we just...
You mean you don't know the number?
Don't be silly. They don't have the numbers on the outside. But it must have been either 405 or 406. Unless it was 407. Or 408.
My cabin's 407, and this is 408.
Well, then it's either 405 or 406. Tomorrow we'll check the passenger list to see who's in those cabins. And then we'll look for the missing girl. She can't have gone far.
I hope you're right.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
What do you mean?
You're wondering why someone went to so much trouble to change the sheets and blankets. You think there might have been more blood later.
You mean someone came back into the cabin and...
Let's get this bedding off. Pillows, blankets. I want to take a look at the mattress. I hope very much that I'm wrong, but... Dear God.
Oh, is that... Is it...
I'm afraid it is. Blood. No doubt about that.
Easy, baby. Take it easy.
But what's happened to the girl? I mean, where is she now?
I don't know, but... Come on, Doctor. Let's lift the mattress.
Yes.
Oh, my.
Good God.
What is it?
A razor. An old-fashioned cutthroat razor.
Beautifully made. The handle's ebony with a design chased in silver. The head and shoulders of a man, with a razor in his fist. A barber.
There's something round his eyes. A bandage.
A blind barber. Oh, that's horrible.
Yes. The blind barber has been at work tonight.
Well, go on, you can't stop there. What happened next? What did you do?
Nothing. I mean, nothing of any importance. I managed to get hold of the passenger list, and I studied it carefully. Then I went to bed.
You discovered the traces of a terrible murder and you did nothing? Didn't you report it?
Well, what good would that have done? We had no proof, only a very shaky theory, with several gaping holes in it.
But you were taking a gigantic risk. The murderer might have got away.
In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? He'd have had to be an exceptionally strong swimmer. There were 24 hours before the ship docked, and in that time I intended to find the Blind Barber and hand him over to the authorities. Only it wasn't quite as simple as that.
You amaze me.
Well, besides, once the story got out, it would have swept through the ship like wildfire, starting a panic among the passengers and putting the barber on his guard. However, I did find this passenger list rather interesting.
Well, let's have a look. Which of the two cabins your young lady referred to? The ones where she might have posted the jewel box through the porthole?
Yeah, 405 and 406. Yeah. As you see, 405 was occupied by two Sisters of Mercy on their way to Rome. And 406...
Mr. I.M. Kyle, the brain surgeon?
Yeah, that's right, yes. Curtis said he would speak to Mr. Kyle, very tactfully, and suggested I might make myself known to the two good ladies. Next morning, when I entered the dining saloon, I found Curtis having breakfast with Mr. Kyle.
Hi there. Come and join us.
Oh, thank you. Good morning to you. And Mr. Kyle?
Perhaps you can enlighten me, Doctor. I can't quite make out what this young man is driving at. Something about a parcel.
Well, a sort of parcel. More of a box. A metallic-type box.
Which he seems to think might have flown into my cabin during the night. He's too polite to say so, of course, but I think he suspects me of stealing it.
Oh, no, nothing of the sort. I just thought you might have, overlooked it, that's all.
Overlooked a metal box crashing into my cabin? It's true I'm a sound sleeper, but I don't think I'd miss a thing like that.
So you sleep soundly. You weren't disturbed by any other noises during the night? Any nocturnal toings and froings?
Not a thing. I'm sorry I can't be more helpful, but as I've finished my breakfast...
Oh, before you go, I've been trying to remember where I've seen you before, and I think I've got it. Yesterday in the wireless room. Weren't you there, waiting in line?
I sent a cable to my registrar at the hospital, but I don't see what that has got to do with you.
Nothing at all. I'd like to get these little things cleared up. You know how it is.
I'm glad I was able to set your mind at rest. Good day, Doctor.
Good morning. That's what you call handling things tactfully, is it?
Well, he's obviously our man, isn't he? He was there when the radio operator read out Uncle Waldo's cable. He's the one who stole my film. And now he's got the darned emerald as well.
He's one of Scotland's leading medical men. He's hardly likely to moonlight as a thief and a murderer.
Oh, no? Remember Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
I also remember Dr. Jekyll was a character in fiction. And Kyle has an alibi.
What?
I've been to see the Sisters of Mercy. They're next door to Mr. Kyle, and they hardly stepped a wink, because the wretched man snored all night long. And Peggy couldn't have slipped the box into their cabin, because they keep the porthole shut for fear of drafts. They're in the clear, and so is Kyle.
It must be a mistake. They must have heard somebody snoring in a different cabin. I tell you, Kyle's guilty.
Beg pardon, gentlemen. Captain Whistler's compliments, and he'd like to see you in his stateroom as soon as possible.
The sooner the better. I've got a few things to say to the captain myself.
I tried to persuade him not to go at it like a bull at a gate, but the moment we walked in, he poured out the whole story. Apart from the details of Uncle Waldo's cinema debut, of course. When he'd finished, the captain told the purser to search the ship from stem to stern for any traces of the missing girl. Then he turned to us, looking very grim.
I take it you have not recovered the missing emerald.
Well, no, not yet.
Pity. When I find the ruffian who attacked me, he's going to regret it.
Yes, I'm sure he is. But I can tell you who's got the emerald right now.
Curtis, I really don't advise you to...
You know who he is? Are you sure?
Absolutely. I've just been talking to him. Mr. Kyle, the so-called brain surgeon.
Now, just one moment.
You think so too, eh? So do I.
I beg your pardon?
This cable arrived half an hour ago from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Victim auto accident picked up outside Washington, Jan 25th. In coma till yesterday, still incoherent, but claims to be passenger aboard your ship. Federal agent thinks also medical specialist on your ship. Man responsible for Skelly and McGee jobs. Very important person. Must be no mistake.
Medical specialist. What did I tell you?
There's no other medical man on board except the ship's doctor, and I've known him for years.
I knew it. I knew Kyle was the guy who bumped me over the head in my cabin.
He did what? I thought you fell and hit your head accidentally.
Oh, sure. I forgot. Yeah, it was an accident.
Mr. Warren, I gave you the benefit of the doubt last night, and now you're playing games with me again. I warn you, if this is a practical joke...
You gotta believe me. Doctor, give me the razor.
No, Doctor, please don't give him the razor.
The razor's in my cabin. I would hardly carry it about with me.
Well, let's go and get it.
Oh, thank heavens. Come in.
Excuse me, sir, but you did say I was to come back as soon as possible.
Oh, yes, the passenger list. Well?
I put all my men onto it. Everyone's accounted for. Every passenger, every member of the crew. There was nobody hurt last night.
But we're not looking for someone hurt. We're talking about a girl who's missing. A girl who's been murdered.
No, sir, we checked the entire list. There's nobody missing. They're all present and correct.
Right, that's enough. That's all I need to know. Either you two are lying or you're insane. And if I have any more trouble, I'll have you both locked up. Now get out, both of you. Get out!
With as much dignity as possible, we left the stateroom and rejoined Peggy, trying to make sense of these inexplicable events. We felt sure the girl had been quietly disposed of overboard, but we couldn't prove it. That was when I decided to cable Scotland Yard, asking for your assistance, my dear chap. I scribbled out a message, and Peggy took it up to the radio room.
There you are. London are reading it already.
Oh, thank you so much. You've been very helpful. Could I just ask one more question?
Of course you can. Fire away.
You know Mr. Warren? You had a cable for him yesterday from Washington.
I remember. I had to read it out to him.
Yes, but can you remember who else was here? He said there were other people waiting.
That's right. We were pretty busy. I think Mr. Kyle was here, and someone else. A girl.
Who was she? Did she give her name?
No, she didn't stay long. I think she wanted to send a message, because she had her hands full of papers, but she must have changed her mind, because next time I looked around, she'd gone.
I went back to try and persuade the captain we were neither mad nor mischievous. I even took the razor with me, but it seemed that he'd already changed his mind.
Yes, I dare say you're right.
So you agree that this stain upon the blade is...
Just put it away, will you? Perhaps I was a little hasty. As it happens, I've been presented with some new evidence.
Evidence?
One of the deckhands discovered something hidden inside a cupboard on the games deck, where they keep the quoits and shuffleboard and so on.
What did he discover?
A bundle of sheets, blankets, pillows, all heavily stained with blood. So I'm inclined to believe the story you told me.
What do you propose to do about it?
I think perhaps we should join forces to try to solve these problems. First of all, you must come with me to see Lord Sturton, who's threatening to sue me for the loss of that damned elephant. I want you as a witness to explain that I was the victim of a ruthless attack by an unknown assailant. And once that's sorted out, we can try to find the missing passenger who isn't missing.
I didn't care for the captain's order of priorities, but I had no wish to antagonize him any further. When we entered Lord Sturton's suite, we heard him in his secretary's room dictating a letter.
Kirkwood solicitors. Oh, dash it. I know it's King's Benchwark, but what's the number? Oh, wait a moment. Must have it in here. Ah, Captain. This is an unexpected pleasure.
Am I to understand that you found the missing emerald? Well, not exactly. I'm sure you appreciate that these things take time. But if you'll just be patient, I've no doubt we shall recover it eventually.
Ah! In that case, I withdraw my remarks. Your arrival may be unexpected, but it is certainly not a pleasure. Now, let's be frank. You haven't found the emerald, and you've no hope of finding it. So why don't you say so?
If you'll just allow me to explain...
No, I will not. No intention of listening to any more rubbish. And that's what it is, rubbish. If that's all you have to say for yourself, you can go away and stop wasting my time.
Yes, but your lordship, you remember I said I would produce a witness who can testify that I was not to blame in any way. Isn't that right, Doctor?
No, yes, indeed. Yes, I can, certainly.
No, just one moment. I've never seen this gentleman before. How can I be expected to accept his evidence, huh?
Allow me to introduce you. This is Dr. Gideon Fell, a renowned expert in the field of criminal investigation.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Exactly.
Neither would I. However, you claim to have been a witness to the theft of the emerald?
Certainly. And I can assure you the captain was not responsible.
Of course he's responsible. Get his signature on the receipt he gave me. And that'll be proof positive when the case comes to court.
But Dr. Fell saw the man who attacked me.
Oh. Are you prepared to identify the culprit?
Well, no. It was very dark at the time.
Yes, I thought as much. Never mind, Captain. I've enjoyed myself long enough. It's time to end this charade. Huh? I shall not be taking you to court. The joke's over.
Joke? But the emerald elephant...
He is safe and sound. Look, I have it here. There, you see?
Good heavens. Well, may I ask how it was recovered?
I neither know, nor do I care. Someone came in while I was out of the room. I found it on that table over there. Well, here's your receipt, Captain. I shall take care of my own valuables in future. Good day to you.
You're very quiet today. What's wrong?
Oh, it's just... I keep thinking about that girl.
Me too. But thinking isn't going to bring her back. No one will ever find her. Not now.
Oh, that's a horrible thing to say. Almost as if you were glad that she's gone.
Peggy?
You know who she was, don't you?
Of course not. What makes you think...
You said you'd seen her before. And I heard her calling you. She knew your name.
Look, I've had enough of this. We both know Kyle's the blind barber. I'm going to have it out with him. Right now.
Wait, I'm coming with you.
Mr. Kyle, I want to... Oh.
He's not here.
Wouldn't you know it? Just when I was going to clear this up once and for all.
Shush! Look! Over there.
Over where?
The porthole's half open, and it's right above that cabin trunk. If I popped the jewel box in, it could have fallen behind the trunk.
Here, let me help you.
What did I tell you?
Better make sure. Open it up.
The emerald elephant.
Give me that. Don't worry, nobody will ever know we took it.
You think not?
Oh.
Captain, I can explain.
So you were the thieves, after all. I should have known. But why did you have to steal the elephant twice?
I finally managed to persuade the captain to let you take charge of the case, my dear chap. I told him that you would arrest the blind barber.
I'm glad you have such confidence in me, but...
Doctor, we've been sent to find you.
Now, come in, both of you. Hadley, let me introduce Miss Glenn and Mr. Warren.
How do you do?
How do you do?
How do you do?
I've heard a lot about you.
I bet. The local cops are on board, and the inspector would like to see you now.
Ah, very well. By the way, Kurt, you'd better have this.
My can of film.
It was found in the murderer's cabin. I think it's all there. No doubt you'll dispose of it safely.
Oh, I will. But you said the murderer. Who?
Why, the imposter who claimed to be Lord Sturton. The only person who filled all the requirements for the blind barber.
But the missing girl...
His lordship's secretary, Hilda Cooper. We saw her come on board with him.
But I never met her. How did she know my name?
She was in the radio room, waiting to send some cables for her employer, when you...
Of course! The radio operator said she had her hands full of papers.
Yes, but she was still around. You heard her taking dictation after that girl was killed.
I blame myself. We heard Sturton apparently dictating to her in the next room. But we didn't actually see her. Neither did the purser. Oh, by the way, Peggy, there's one small point that puzzles me. On the voyage out, you were wearing an engagement ring. Now you're not. Why is that?
Well, as a matter of fact, while I was in New York, I broke off the engagement.
Thank you. Come along, Hadley. Let's go.
Right, after you.
Kurt, I'm sorry if I was suspicious, but...
I'm not sorry. I'm the happiest guy on earth.
Inspector Jennings, Superintendent Hadley.
How do you do, sir?
Inspector. And this is?
He won't give his name, sir. He says he wants to be called Nemo.
Nemo?
We've already met. Nemo, as in nobody.
You're surprised at the change of voice, huh? Yeah, well, it's a relief to drop the limey accent. Now, Doctor, I've enjoyed myself long enough. It's time to end the charade.
Yes, if you're willing to talk.
Oh, he's talkative. The past half hour, he's told me everything. I've got a notebook full.
Yeah, but you'll never prove any of it. Ever since the night they dragged Sturton out of that pile-up in Washington, I've had all the luck.
What do you mean?
Oh, don't you see? I'm a dead ringer for Sturton. I fooled everyone. Yeah, everyone except you, Doctor.
But you were the only possible suspect. For one thing, we knew somebody was impersonating a very important man. The cable said so.
It also said he was posing as a medical man.
No. The snag with cables is that there's no punctuation. Now, here's the message as we read it. Federal agent thinks also. Medical specialist on your ship. Man responsible for Skelly and McGee jobs. Now, put in a few commas, and you get another version. Federal agent thinks, also medical specialist, on your ship, man responsible for Skelly and McGee jobs. That's the specialist at the hospital where Lord Sturton was recovering. It struck me as a coincidence that Sturton was in Washington to buy the emerald, and I wondered if he might have heard rumours about a certain film made at a private party.
Yeah, well, he didn't. I heard the story from one of the waiters. And when I stepped into his lordship's shoes, I thought, well, it might be kind of fun to get hold of the movie.
With a view to blackmail?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. I enjoy stirring up trouble.
Which you certainly did. When part of the film was stolen, a mysterious girl appeared, trying to warn Curtis Warren. A girl who later vanished.
Yeah, I hired her as my secretary. I was crazy about her. I hope she's rotting in hell.
After you'd killed her, you remade the bed, in order to make it appear that my companions and I were lying. If she were found, she would be traced to you. You couldn't risk an investigation by the police. So I was looking for a man traveling with a female companion. A famous man who collected valuable toys, like the antique razor we found at the scene of the crime.
It wasn't a toy. I cut her throat. That was the best thing. For her. And for me.
Why? Wasn't she your accomplice?
Yes, she could have been. When she told me about the curious cablegram she overheard in the radio room, I decided to let her in on my plan. Well, I couldn't keep up the pretense with her forever. I was going to say, you're in this as deep as I am, so you'd better stick with me, kid. We'll work as a team. But the little bitch wouldn't play. She was too honest. Too honest to live.
Quite so. That was your mistake. You thought she wouldn't be able to resist the easy money. And by that time, she knew too much.
Yeah. I even told her how I'd made a copy of the emerald. I planned to show it to the customs men and offer them a small fortune in duty. And wait for them to say, sorry, your lordship, you've been had. This emerald is a fake. That would have been a big joke at my expense. And I'd scream and cuss and give them a handsome tip to keep their mouths shut. Then walk through without paying a penny. Yeah. But it all went wrong. Thanks to those goddamn interfering kids. It all went wrong.
So when the copy got lost, you had to produce the real emerald, pretending it had been mysteriously returned. And you acted out of character for the first time. You said you didn't know or care how it had been recovered. Lord Sturton would never have said that.
You think not? Yeah. Well, it's too late now. You want to arrest me anyway. Because I'm a ghost.
You're what?
You remember that medicine I took half an hour ago, Inspector, for my weak heart? Eh? It's something I keep by me for emergencies. But now my heart will never trouble me again. You're talking to a ghost. Maybe the blind barber will come back some night with his razor for a surprise visit.
Yes. I was afraid you might try that old trick, which is why I advised Inspector Jennings to change the contents of the medicine bottle.
Why,
You're not going to die of poison, Nemo. You're going to hang.
In The Blind Barber by John Dixon Carr, Dr. Gideon Fell was played by Donald Sinden and Superintendent Hadley by John Hartley. Lord Sturton and Nemo, Patrick Allen. Captain Whistler, Clive Swift. Curtis Warren, Mark Leake. Peggy Glenn, Laura Baisley. Mr. Kyle, David Bannerman. Inspector Jennings, Christopher Wright. The ship's steward, Duncan Knowles. The radio operator, Josh Darcy. Other parts were played by members of the cast. The Blind Barber was dramatized for radio by Peter Ling and directed by Enid Williams.
We present Cecil Parker and Naunton Wayne in Daughters-in-Law by Henry Cecil, adapted by the author from his new book of the same name, with Gudrun Ure and Diana Olsen. Daughters-in-Law.
But, my dear Major, why not?
Why not? Why not? I'll tell you why not, Archie. But first, draw me another pint, will you?
Certainly, Major. But you know you're just the sort of man they want on the local bench. Why won't you let your name go forward?
Because I won't have anything to do with the law. That's why. The Buttonstep family has been ruined by lawyers, and in my view, they're all alike. Barristers, solicitors, judges, the whole boiling lot. Parasites.
But JPs aren't lawyers, Major. They have a clerk to help them make their legal mistakes. Judges have to make them all on their own.
Well, what's that got to do with it? JPs administer the law, don't they?
Someone has to.
Well, it isn't going to be me. Upon my word, I believe it was one of those blooming police courts that helped to ruin one of my family. A case of poaching it was. A fellow bagged a pheasant and it dropped in the road. Now, any sensible, honest person would have said that that was poaching. Well, the fellow even admitted it when he was caught.
Then what was the case about?
Well, I'm telling you, the chap admitted it. But would that do for the lawyers? Oh, dear me, no. Where was it when it was actually shot? It might have been over the road. If it was over the road, was it over public property?
What happened?
Well, you may well ask. I tell you, they argued for 2 years whether the road was public property or not, and for another 2, whether it made any difference. Now, you won't believe this, but it's true. After 2 years, they found the road was public property, and after another 2, that it didn't make any difference. Well, the fellow had gone to Australia by then. How often have you done that sort of thing?
I've certainly never heard of a case in our police court that lasted more than a week. You can't mean it really took 4 years.
Oh, no, not just in the police court. You don't think the lawyers would be satisfied with that? No wigs or gowns there. Oh, no. Somehow or other, they got it into the High Court, with 3 flipping judges looking at 50 flipping books and asking 50 million flipping questions about them. It was a blooming scandal. Here was a fellow, caught red-handed, and to hear the Lord Chief Justice talking, you'd have thought it was the Titchborne case all over again. I know. I heard him.
You must have been very young.
Well, I was, but old enough to understand why our family lost nearly everything that used to belong to it. Tell me, Sir George, I remember the old judge saying, how do you reconcile Naylor and Nubkin with Settle and Holiday? And you know, Sir George, whatever his name was, spent 2 days explaining why he couldn't reconcile them. 2 days, at 100 guineas a day, mark you. My poor old cousin's money. And at the end of it, the judge said with a smile, well, Sir George, we seem to be back where we started. Well, he could afford to smile. So could the lawyers. They could afford to blooming well laugh. No, Archie, no. Now, there are going to be no judges, qualified or unqualified, in the Buttonstep family.
But, Major, suppose Digby and John had become lawyers.
Ah, not with Buttonstep blood in them. And mind you, Digby had to learn a bit of law before he became a chartered accountant, but no doubt he soon forgot it when he got into practice.
By the way, how are they both doing?
Well, wonderfully. John's just bought another 50 acres, and Digby's a partner in one of the best-known firms in the city.
Any sign of them marrying?
Well, not as far as I know.
Suppose they married into a legal family.
No, it's no use, Archie. I'm not going on the bench. And trying to annoy me by talking about Digby and John marrying into a legal family won't make me change. Well, they wouldn't dream of doing such a thing. They know my views. No, they've got 2 nice girls with them at the moment. Couldn't possibly be lawyers.
Prunella, darling, I don't know how I'm going to break it to Father.
My dear, sweet Digby, don't you think he'll like me?
He'll like you, all right, but not your profession. The idea of a barrister in the family, even a girl, will shake the old boy, I'm afraid.
Even a girl.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you're a marvel. Marshall Hall isn't in it. You'll be a QC and the first woman judge. You'll go to the Court of Appeal and the House of Lords. And I love you.
Ah, that's better than all the rest. But seriously, will it really upset your father so much?
I'm afraid it will. And what makes it worse is John getting engaged to your sister. You a barrister and Jane a solicitor. I really am worried.
Dear, I can't believe he feels as badly about them as all that.
Parasites, I tell you, Archie. Barristers, solicitors. There's only one thing worse, and that's a judge. Sarcastic devils. I've heard them at it. Do yourself justice, Mr. Wotherspoon. Don't you know the difference between your left hand and your right hand? No, thank you. No judges for the Buttonsteps. You ask Digby.
And your father's a High Court judge, Prunella, too.
He's a very good one. They say he's one of the few judges who can rarely get at the truth in a difficult case.
I know, but there isn't such a thing as a good judge in Father's eyes. He looks upon them all as Judge Geoffrey. Well, that's why John and I have never taken either of you home. No point in worrying the old boy until things were pretty certain. But now we'll have to break it to him. Thank heavens you're both such beauties. He's got an eye for a pretty face. Let's hope that'll help to counteract the legal side of him.
We'll know soon enough.
Do you know, I don't believe we've had such a bevy of beauty here since the war. Well, Digby and John ought to have brought you home before. Oh, yeah. Miss Coombe?
Thank you, Major.
And Miss Coombe.
Thank you.
Oh, just the occasion for a drink, this. Your good health, my dear.
And yours, Major.
Yours, Major.
Yes, Anne.
And how long have you known John? Jane? You're much too young to be called Miss Coombe.
Please do call me Jane. About a year altogether, I suppose.
A year? Well, really, John, I should have thought...
Father, what are those roses with the big saucer-like blooms?
Those? Well, we've had them for years. With mermaid. And what do you do for a living, Prunella? Or are you a lady of leisure?
Father, what are those yellow ones near the greenhouse?
I love roses, don't you, John? Do you look after them yourself, Major?
Well, I potter about a bit, you know.
Oh, it's just like Father.
And what is your father, my dear? But you were telling me about your job. Now I've forgotten what it was.
Father, what's the difference between fashion and friendship?
Oh, surely you know that, John. Well, fashion... But I was interrupting Prunella. You were telling me what you did.
Major, is there a button-step rose yet?
Well, it's in the melting pot at the moment.
Oh.
You see... But what do you do, Prunella? I shall begin to think it's something shady if you hold back any more.
Well, As a matter of fact, I'm a barrister.
Oh. And you, Jane?
Well, I'm a solicitor, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
They couldn't really help it, Father. You see, their father's a judge.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Father. I didn't mean to make it worse.
Really, Father, we told you before, and only you see...
Why so embarrassed? We all know there are barristers and solicitors, and we all know that the profession, if that's the right word, is open to both sexes. There's no reason why my two sons shouldn't bring home two young lawyers to dinner. There's no special significance in it, is there? There's no special significance in it, is there? Oh. But if you'll forgive me, I've rather a headache. You'll find me in the study if you want me, Digby. John?
Oh, dear. It's even worse than I thought it would be, but we had to tell him sometime.
We'd better go and see him straight away, Digby.
I'm afraid I was very clumsy about it.
Oh, and I was too.
Oh, it wasn't your fault at all. It's ours, if anybody's. Oh, come on, John. We must see what we can do.
Digby and John, I'm glad you followed me. Now, we must have this thing out. But first of all, are you both serious?
I'm afraid so, Father.
Oh, my God. Now, look, you know that I only want you to be happy, don't you?
Well, of course we do, Father, and we want you to be happy about it, too.
But then, listen. Happiness doesn't just consist in getting married to a kind, intelligent, and attractive girl. Believe me, there's something far more worthwhile than the exciting love between two young people. It's the development that counts. And whether it develops into that glorious state of permanent happiness that your mother and I shared depends upon a number of things.
There's no doubt of it in our case.
Oh, wait a moment. One of the things on which it depends is tradition. Your family has hated lawyers from time immemorial. They've been bled white by them. I can even speak from experience. It cost me over £50 to sack a dishonest chauffeur.
But I thought you won the case.
Well, of course I won the case, but that's to say the other chap lost it. But no one can win a case at law, except the lawyers. They win the lot. It's in their blood. Well, they can't help it, any more than a stoat can help killing a rabbit. And I don't want a lot of bloodsuckers for my grandchildren.
But really, Father, they're not all like that. Look, why don't you meet old Coombe? He's not half a bad old boy.
Not half a bad old boy. Ever heard of Judge Jeffries? Well, they haven't changed since then.
Really?
Oh, I know that their manners are better, and they don't get the chance of hanging as many people as they'd like to, but that's not their fault. They would if they could.
Prunella wouldn't want to hang anyone.
Nor would Jane.
Well, of course they wouldn't. They're very nice girls, I'm sure. And I dare say their father is, as a man.
He is, really.
So are all lawyers before the law gets into their blood. Do you think that these judges who are so bloodthirsty on the bench are different from other men by nature? Do you think these barristers and solicitors who soak you for thousands and then tell you how sorry they are that you lost, but the judge was very difficult? And do you think they're different from you and me by nature? Well, of course not.
Then what's troubling you, Father?
What's troubling me is that they haven't been left to nature. The law's got into their blood and made them what they are. There's no profession which takes so much from you and gives you nothing in return. The architect gives you a new house, the doctor a new tummy, the accountant a balance sheet. And what does a lawyer leave you with? A bill of costs. For generations our family has hated them with a bitter, permanent, implacable hatred. For God's sake, don't you two let me down.
Well, I didn't know you felt quite as strongly as that, Father.
Not quite so strongly. Oh. Look what they've done to us, these lawyers. We used to own 3/4 of the land round here. Buttonstep village belonged to us. Now what have we got? Half an acre, and lucky to have that. Look, let me show you something. Look, do you see these papers?
Good Lord.
You may well say good Lord. In the estate of Charles Buttonstep deceased, Bradley versus Buttonstep, Buttonstep versus the Queen against Buttonstep, Buttonstep against Buttonstep, and so on and so on. Look at the courts we've been through. We've done the lot. Police court, county court, high court, court of appeal, privy council, House of Lords. And now, I suppose, my grandchildren are going to be John Buttonstep, Esquire, barrister at law. Mr. Justice Buttonstep, Lord Justice Buttonstep. I hope I'm dead before it happens.
But, Father, really, our children may not want to be lawyers. They may hate them like you do.
Well, they won't be able to help it. The Coombe blood will be too strong for them. Now, Mr. Justice Coombe comes from what they call a long line of distinguished judges. They were distinguished, all right. One of them ruined your great-great-grandfather with a wicked judgment. Wicked, I tell you. Oh, it was upset by the House of Lords, all right, and they said it was, well, they didn't say wicked. Dog don't eat dog. But they used legal language for saying that the judge was talking through his hat. Much good that was. Your great-great-grandfather was dead by then.
But the Buttonstep blood may prove stronger than the Coombe. You know, all our children may be like you.
Don't you believe it? Even in the womb, the lawyers will find a way. For all we know, he'll take legal proceedings in there, and the child that's born will be the result of a nolle prosequi, or some other of their beastly Latin phrases. Why can't they talk English in an English court? I bet half of them don't know what they're saying. They pronounce it all wrong anyway. My dear boys, do, for heaven's sake, think it over.
All right, Father. We will.
Well, thank goodness. Well, you better take the girls home. Good night.
Is there any hope, Digby?
Oh, not much, Prunella. I wonder if your father would be able to suggest anything? Well, Sir George, it's very good of you to have listened to me so patiently. But Prunella and I just didn't know what to do about my father. We thought you might be able to make him see reason.
I don't know about that, Digby, but your father seems to come from a very litigious family. They may hate lawyers, but they've certainly been benefactors to the legal profession. I should rather be inclined to think that the trouble springs from your family having lost too many cases.
You mean they're really fond of litigation, but it's proved too expensive? Like a racing man gives it up because he loses. What's the cure, sir?
No, I'm afraid I can't suggest that. With a racing man, it would be different. Let him win a few bets, and he'll be as keen as ever again. But with your father, I'm afraid I just don't know.
Well, thank you for seeing me, anyway. Good night, sir. He can't think of anything, John.
Well, we must, Digby.
Well, if old Coombe can't, I don't see how we can. He's got the most terrific reputation in the city. They say he can nose out anything.
What's the good of that to us? What exactly did he say?
He just said the family's lost too many cases.
Well, Major, are you any happier about your boys?
Well, there's life, there's hope, Archie. They haven't mentioned the subject for the last month, so I haven't either.
You say they're nice enough girls.
Oh, charming. If it wasn't for what they are, I could have fallen for one myself.
It seems an awful shame if they have to give them up.
Yes, I know. But as far as I'm concerned, if they marry, it'll be like a devout Roman Catholic marrying a heathen. It's unthinkable. Well, I'm off. Tell Digby I've gone up to the farm if he comes in.
Okay, Major.
Right, thanks so much. See you later. Oh, I beg your pardon.
Not at all.
I'm so
I was
sorry.
in the way. It's my fault entirely.
I'm
Not at all, sir. Not at all. Oh, what a charming man. Pint of bitter, please.
Pint of bitter it is.
Will you have one, landlord?
Oh, that's very good of you, thanks. I'll have the same.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. I haven't seen you before. Passing through?
No, I've just come to Buttonstep. I've taken the house by the common, Enmore.
Oh, nice little place. Hope you'll like it here.
Look, I suppose you don't happen to know
Hello, Digby. Your father's just been in. He's gone to the farm if you want him.
Oh, thanks.
This gentleman's just taken Enmore.
Oh. How do you do? My name's Buttonstep.
Oh, mine's Trotter. Your name's Buttonstep, is it? What, same as the village? You own the whole place, I imagine.
Well, the family used to. Only the name now, I'm afraid.
Forgive my asking you, but I suppose you don't know anyone who could lend me a motor mower by any chance? The grass at the back is pretty thick.
My father might lend you his.
Are you sure you wouldn't mind?
I don't suppose he would, but I'll ask him.
Well, that's really most civil of you. If everyone's as kind round here, I'm going to enjoy myself.
What'll you have?
Oh, now, that really is kind. I ought to be giving you one.
Another time.
When's that fella Trotter bringing the mower back? You told me he'd promised it for today.
I'm terribly sorry, Father. I thought he'd brought it. I'll pop down and see him.
Well, it's all right. In the morning will do. It's just that I like people to keep their promises.
He's terribly sorry, Father. He says he clean forgot all about it. He'll bring it up this morning.
Well, thanks, Digby. Oh, well, we all forget sometimes, I suppose. What time is he bringing it up?
About 11:30, if that's all right.
I say, Digby, this is too bad. He can't have forgotten it again.
Do you mean to say he's not brought it up?
That's exactly what I do mean to say.
I'm terribly sorry. I ought never to have said you'd lend it to him. I'll go straight down now.
Well, thanks. Well, it's not your fault.
I'm sorry, Father. You're not going to be pleased.
What do you mean?
Well, I went down to his house and knocked, and nothing happened. Then he put his head out of the window and said he'd got mumps in the house.
What on earth's that got to do with it?
Yeah, well, he said he wasn't feeling too good himself and couldn't let me into the house when I said I'd never had mumps.
Oh, this is past a joke. I'll go down myself.
Have you had mumps?
No, but there's a back door, isn't there?
Oh, no, you have to go through the house.
Well, he can put it in the front garden, can't he? And I can pick it up from there.
I suggested that, but he said he didn't feel strong enough to get it up the steps at the back.
Well, confound the man. Not strong enough. Oh, ring him.
Number, please.
Oh, Mrs. Temperley, would you kindly give me Mr. Trotter of Enmore House?
Certainly, Major. It's ringing now.
Hello?
Is that Mr. Trotter?
Oh, yes, it is. But only just. I'm feeling very weak.
Oh, this is Claude Buttonstep here.
Oh, how do you do? I've been wanting to thank you for the mower. Oh, it was most kind.
When can I have it back?
Ah, now that's a problem, isn't it?
Well, I see no problem. If you'd kindly put it in your front garden, I'll fetch it.
Well, I hate to put you to all this trouble.
Well, never mind. I want the mower.
I'd much rather bring it back to you in a week or so, when I feel a little stronger.
I'm afraid I want it now.
Ah, now there we have our problem again.
And I repeat, there is no problem. Would you kindly put the mower in the front garden, and I'll come down and fetch it?
The front garden? Which side would you prefer it? Left or right?
I don't mind. I'm coming down now. The man's as mad as a hatter. Mr. Trotter! Mr. Trotter! Damn.
Wouldn't he let you have it, Father?
He would not.
Daniel Trotter speaking.
Why didn't you answer the door? I knocked and rang I don't know how many times.
I know, it kept me awake.
Look here, sir. Why was my mower not on the front garden?
Well, I didn't feel up to it, I'm afraid.
Have you got no one else in the house?
No one who could move it, I'm afraid.
When am I going to get it back?
Well, I'm terribly sorry about it.
I dare say, but when am I going to get it back?
Well, I'm most awfully sorry. You may have to wait until I get over my mumps.
The doctor says you haven't, does he?
I'm afraid I don't go in for doctors. They've killed too many of my family already. If you take my advice, you steer clear of them too.
What I want at the moment is not your advice, but my mower.
Yes, it is a problem, isn't it?
If you haven't had a doctor, how do you know you've got mumps?
Well, I've got a book.
I dare say you have, so have I.
Oh, is yours by a
Look
fellow...
here, sir. I don't care whether you've got mumps or not. I want my mower back.
I know you do, and I should feel exactly the same in your position. And if you had mumps, you'd feel like me.
Are you going to return my mower or not?
Of course I am, and I'm terribly sorry for the delay. But we seem to have reached an impasse.
When will you be better?
Well, according to this book, I shall be ill for about a fortnight and infectious for another fortnight. Well, now, that means a month, doesn't it? Will you be able to manage till then? Look, Perhaps you could borrow one from a friend.
What is to stop your putting the mower in the front garden when you feel better?
Oh, it seems very ungrateful letting you fetch it. It's been so useful to me, and it's a jolly good machine. Except for the broken blade, of course.
The broken blade? There was no broken blade when the machine was lent to you.
You mean that you think I've broken it?
Well, I do.
Oh, I could hardly think so.
It was in perfect order when I lent it to you.
Well, so it is now. Except for the blade.
There was no broken blade when I lent it to you.
Have you any witnesses?
What can I do with the fellow, Digby? Now he's broken the thing. Why on earth did I ever lend it to him?
Well, perhaps he could throw a key down and we could go in and fetch it.
Perhaps you could throw a key down and we could go in and fetch the mower.
I'm afraid it can't be done.
Why not?
Well, first of all, I have to keep the windows closed. The book says so. And secondly, if you came through the house, you might catch mumps. And if you did, well, I'd never forgive myself.
Well, somebody else in the house can surely open the door to me, and I'll take the risk of that.
Oh, too dangerous. They've all got it now. Oh, look here. Really, I should borrow one if I were you. And now, if you'll forgive me, I must go to sleep again. The book is most insistent on it.
Well, Mr. Trotter, I've had enough of this. Unless the mower is delivered here by noon tomorrow, you will hear from my...
Yes, yes?
Well, you'll hear...
From whom shall I hear if the mower is not returned by noon tomorrow?
Oh, go to blazes! You know, the fellow's getting me down. Do you know, I nearly said he'd hear from my solicitors. Solicitors? No, thank you. They're even worse than Mr. Trotter. No, this is a police case. I'll go and see old Glossop in the morning.
Good morning, sir.
Glossop, have you had mumps?
Mumps, sir? Well, I have, as a matter of fact.
Good. I want you to arrest a man for stealing. He says he's got mumps, but I don't believe it.
What's the charge, sir?
Stealing my lawnmower.
When did he take it, sir?
I lent it to him and he won't give it back.
That's not stealing, I'm afraid, sir. It might be what the lawyers call fraudulent conversion.
Never mind about the lawyers. Can you get my mower back for me?
Well, I can ask him for it, sir. But I suppose you've done that.
I have indeed.
Why won't he give it back, sir?
Well, he makes all sorts of excuses, but the truth is that the man's crackers, I suppose.
What does the doctor say, sir?
Well, he won't have a doctor. He uses a book.
A book, sir?
Never mind. What can you do to get the thing back for me?
Well, sir, we can try peaceful persuasion. Shall we go along now, sir? I'll just put my coat on, sir.
You know, he's in there all right. He just won't answer.
Is there anyone in? Is there anyone in?
We'd best go back to my house and telephone.
Hello.
Is that Mr. Trotter?
It is.
This is Police Constable Glossop, sir. I've had a complaint from Major Buttonstep that he lent you a motor mower and you won't give it back to him.
Won't give it back to him, Constable? Oh, there must be some mistake. I want to give it back to him. It's no good to me, and it's taking up room in the shed which I can ill spare.
We just been to your house and couldn't get no reply.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I've got rather cold and gone to bed.
Well, haven't you got mumps, sir?
Mumps? What on earth do you mean? Nothing of the kind. I've just got the cold.
The Major tells me you said you had mumps and give that as an excuse for not giving up the machine.
Oh, he must have misunderstood. This line is rather bad.
Well, sir, would you kindly put the mower in your front garden, sir?
Not at the moment, I'm afraid. I don't feel quite up to it.
Then will you let me come and fetch it, sir?
No, I'm afraid not. Ask the Major to be kind enough to send for it in the morning. And not before 10 or after 11. Goodbye, officer. Just knock or ring. Or both.
Can't we break the door down?
Afraid not, sir. Forcible entry on land.
What about forcible detention of my property?
Now, that's different, sir. The superintendent says if he hasn't made away with it, it's nothing to do with the criminal law. You can't prove he sold it or anything like that, can you, sir?
Well, of course I can't, but I can prove that he's had it and won't return it. Mr. Trotter! Mr. Trotter! Do you mean to say there's nothing you can do, Glossop? It's ridiculous.
Very sorry, sir, but unless you can show he's made away with it, it's not a police matter.
Yes, but you must be able to do something. There must be some law against it.
Oh, yes, sir. You could sue him in the county court.
The county court? Never. I've had one go there, thank you. Cost me £50. The machine isn't worth it. It isn't worth anything, I expect, by now, if he's smashed all the blades.
I'm no lawyer, sir, but if he's damaged it, I expect you can make him pay for it.
How?
In the county court.
The county court? No, thank you. Let's go and telephone the fellow again.
Daniel Trotter speaking.
This is Constable Glossop speaking, sir. I called round with the Major to get the machine, but it wasn't there, and you wouldn't answer the door.
I thought you were going to break it down. You mustn't do that, you know.
Why wasn't it there, sir?
Why? Because you came at the wrong time.
You said not before 10 or after 11, sir, and we come at 10:15.
Oh, you must have misunderstood. I said before 10 or after 11.
Well, it's after 11 now. We'll come for it right away.
Well, can't be done, I'm afraid, officer. When I heard you go away, I thought you'd finished for the day, and I made my arrangements accordingly.
Let me speak to him. Look here, Trotter. I don't know what your game is, whether you're mad or whether you've simply sold the machine, but I give you a final warning. Unless you put that machine out at once, you will take the consequences.
Oh, really? What a fuss to make about an old mower. And you mustn't suggest I'm mad, or that I've stolen your machine either. That's what most people call libel, but lawyers call it a slander. As you're standing next to the constable, he could hear what you said, and I shall require an immediate apology, or you will hear from my solicitors. You will have your machine back as soon as I finish with it, and not before. After all, you lent it to me. If you didn't intend me to use it, why, let me have it. That's what lawyers call an implied condition.
You promised to let me have it back on Friday.
Well, today's only Monday. Why get so hot under the collar? What's a couple of days? That's what lawyers call de minimis.
Are you going to put that machine out in the front garden?
Certainly.
At once?
Not so certainly. In a day or two. Come back on, Thursday week. Or thereabouts. Oh, you'll be pleased to hear the blade isn't broken. It's going very well indeed. Well, for an old machine, that is.
That machine was bought new in March.
Well, it's a matter of use, isn't it? Some cars are almost as good as new after 18 months. Others have their gears ruined in 3. Look, perhaps I could give you some lessons in how to use it. Ooh, it's really had a caning, I must say.
How dare you, sir?
I haven't had the apology yet. Will you kindly say in an audible voice to the officer, so that I can hear it, that I am neither mad nor a thief? I'm waiting.
I will say nothing of the kind. You are one or the other.
I don't want the damages for myself, but you're certainly piling them up. That's twice you've said it now. The first time you only said it by what the lawyers call an innuendo. But this time you've said it directly. You said quite plainly that I was either mad or a thief.
And you are.
Oh, 3 times lucky. Now, you've no idea what this is going to cost you. I shall give the money to charity, of course. But you'd be able to buy, half a dozen mowing machines with it. You see, I'm new in the village, and you couldn't find a much more important person to slander me to than the village constable. I mean, if somebody steals something, well, a mowing machine, for example, and they don't know who's done it, well, you suspect me because you say I've stolen yours. And then, if some madman sets fire to a hayrick, he'll suspect me because you say I'm mad. Oh, I know you only said I was mad or a thief, but that won't help you. Oh, no, rather not. That's what lawyers call a pregnant alternative.
Confound you, sir.
I'm very sorry, sir. He seems a very odd gentleman. What are you going to do, sir? County court him?
Certainly not. I'm going to get back my machine, but not that way. Thank you.
Come on, Digby. Give me a leg up. Right. And hey, look out, Father. Here's Glossop. Now keep quite still. Oh, damn.
Here. What's going on?
You'll wake him up.
Oh, it's not Major Buttonstep.
Do keep your voice down, Glossop. You'll wake up the whole household. I'm trying to get my mower back.
But you can't do it that way, sir. It's unlawful to break into an inhabited house.
Well, isn't it unlawful to detain someone else's property?
Two wrongs don't make a right, sir. And if you break in, sir, it's a crime.
But isn't it a crime for him to keep my machine?
Not if it's only temporary.
Well, the law's a bigger ass than even I thought it was.
Well, sir, it's like this. If people were allowed to break into other people's houses, the result might be serious injury to one side or the other, or both, sir. People will defend their houses, sir.
Well, I'm only trying to defend my mowing machine.
Not defend, sir. Retake. Now, peaceable recapture of chattels, as the lawyers call it.
You and Mr. Trotter are as bad as each other. I don't want to know what the lawyers call anything.
Well, I'm very sorry, sir, but while peaceable recapture of chattels is allowed, breaking into someone's inhabited house to get them isn't what the law calls peaceable. It might occasion a breach of the peace.
Go away. You'll wake up everyone in the house.
You have done. Burglars in Buttonstep, I wouldn't have believed it. Who is it out there?
It's me. I want my machine back.
Oh, what a silly time to come for it. You must be mixing it up with one of your military night-into-day exercises. But you're not in the army now, Major. Oh, can't have been for a long time, I should imagine. Good night, officer. I shan't prefer any charge, but tell him not to do it again, will you? Good night.
No, this is ludicrous, Glossop. What am I to do?
Well, sir, if you're not able to use the criminal law or to take it back peaceable yourself, the only alternative is to use the civil law and sue him.
Hell. Well, thank you, Glossop. The law. The law. Use the law.
I'm terribly sorry, Father. We'll all come down in the morning and I'll speak to him. After all, it's my fault. Good morning, Mr. Trotter.
Good morning. I wonder if by any chance your father could lend me a roller. Just for a day, you know.
Mr. Trotter, I should be most grateful if you'd let me have my father's mowing machine back first. Then we could discuss the roller.
But I want to use one after the other.
Haven't you finished with the mower yet?
No, I'm afraid not. Roll first and cut afterwards. Now, be a good chap and bring it round, will you?
Mr. Trotter, I really must ask you to bring the machine outside.
Why must you do that?
Because it's my father's machine and he wants it.
How badly does he want it?
Very badly, as a matter of fact.
Well, he's certainly been here bellowing like a bull. Oh, he brought a policeman with him once. What's he frightened of? Think I'll attack him or something? I shouldn't dream of attacking someone who's been good enough to lend me his mower. Goodbye.
Doctor.
Well, Digby, what's the matter?
Thanks for coming. Look, I'm sorry to worry you, but would you mind coming and listening to this conversation? This fellow wants certifying, I think. Mr. Trotter! Mr. Trotter!
What is it now?
This is Dr. Martin.
Oh, how do you do, Doctor? I'm new here. Hope I shan't be requiring your services for some time.
Oh, I hope not.
Now, Mr. Trotter, would you mind explaining to the doctor why you won't return Father's mowing machine?
Well, I will. But last night your father tried to break into my house, and I must confess I wasn't pleased.
But why didn't you let him have it back before then?
Digby, you mean to say that your father did try to break in here? I can't believe it.
Yes, he did, as a matter of fact, but I can explain.
Well, is your father all right? Perhaps I'd better come and have a look at him.
Mr. Trotter,
The only reason my father came here last night was because you refused time and again to give the machine back.
I never refused. It just wasn't convenient. And then he tries to break into my house. Well, it would have served him right if he had broken in and I'd hit him on the head in mistake for a burglar. Come to think of it, from the way he's behaving, perhaps someone has hit him on the head. Now, if you'll forgive me, there are one or two things that I've got to do.
Well, Doctor?
He seems sane enough, but I must say it seems odd of your father to behave like this.
But you don't know what's happened. He's treated my father outrageously.
Well, of course, if you say so, Digby, no doubt he has, but I can't see the slightest evidence of insanity. Why did it first? When he spoke of your father trying to break in, I thought it must have been an hallucination. Well, see you again soon. Must be off.
Goodbye, Doctor. I'll tell Father how helpful you've been. Father? Father?
Well, Digby?
It's no good, Father. John? Yep. You go and have a try.
Okay. Mr. Trotter? Mr. Trotter?
Who are you?
My name is John Buttonstep.
Oh, mine's Daniel Trotter. How do you?
I've come about the machine.
I see. Are there any more of you?
My father would like his machine back, please.
But do tell me, have you any brothers and sisters? They'll be coming later, I suppose. Good morning to you.
Well, John.
Sorry, Father. Hopeless.
Well, where do we go from here? I'm not going to let the fella get away with it. Glossop said the only thing to do is to county court him. I hate the idea, but what else is there?
Father, why not see Jane? She's a solicitor.
Is she really qualified?
Of course, she's jolly good.
Well, as I said, I hate the idea. But I'm not going to let Master Trotter play fast and loose with me.
Good morning, Major. Well, I issued the summons and he's gone to a solicitor who says he's going to defend the action and counterclaim for damages.
Counterclaim, eh?
Mm.
Oh, that'll be for my climbing up the wall when old Glossop stopped me.
No, they're not complaining of that.
And what are they claiming for?
They say that you said to P.C. Glossop that Mr. Trotter had either stolen the machine or that he was mad.
So I did, so he is. What about it?
Well, they call it slander and ask for damages.
And what do you call it?
Well, if we could prove he was mad or that he'd sold the machine or something like that, we could prove it was true. But if we can't prove either of these things, we'll have to rely on privilege.
Look, here's a man who borrows my mower, won't give it back, behaves like a lunatic whenever we ask for it, and you tell me that he can sue me because I say so. I've never heard such nonsense.
No, we can't stop him counterclaiming, but as I said, we can rely on the defense of privilege.
Why can't you lawyers talk plainly? What does privilege mean?
If you say something without malice to someone to whom you have a right or duty to say it, they can't sue you for it.
But he has sued me or counterclaimed or whatever you call it.
I mean, his claim won't succeed.
Oh, how many hundreds of pounds is that going to cost me, may I ask?
Well, if he loses, it won't cost you anything, if he can pay the costs.
And suppose I lose?
I'm afraid that would be rather expensive.
As I thought. I'd have done much better to let him keep the beastly machine. I knew I was right. Now I'm up to my eyes in the law.
I think he's treated you abominably, and I really don't see why you should put up with it.
I dare say you don't. Indeed, as a lawyer, you wouldn't. If people put up with things, there'd be no work for you. Now listen. If I give up the claim to the mowing machine, will he give up his claim for the slander, do you think?
Oh, I should think he would if he's sensible. But are you really going to make him a present of the machine?
Well, what else can I do, my dear girl?
Well...
Oh, no, I'm not blaming you in any way. You've got your job to do and your living to earn. But we had a slander action in our family once. It lasted 3 weeks in one court and a week in another. It took 2 years or more altogether, and both sides had forgotten what the slander was before we'd finished. We were both so busy paying our lawyers we couldn't think of anything else. No. He can have the blasted mower. And I'll never lend anything else to anyone so long as I live.
Well then, Major, your definite instructions are to agree to withdraw your claim if they'll withdraw theirs.
Definite. I can feel the suction of the legal machine already. I'm not going to be drawn into it this time, even if it means giving in to that madman.
All right, I'll telephone Mr. Deltry, the solicitor, and make the suggestion, but Oh, I really do think it's too bad. I can just hear Mr. Deltry giving the good news to Mr. Trotter.
Mr. Trotter, I've some good news for you. I must say it's most unexpected. I told you that you'd no defense to the claim for the mowing machine and that your claim for slander might very well fail. And you told me to go ahead. Well, you were right, Mr. Trotter, and I was wrong. They've given in. If you withdraw your claim, the Major will withdraw his.
If we accept, who keeps the mower?
Well, it belongs to Major Button's desk.
Yes, we all know that, but I've got it, so can I keep it?
I shall have to consult counsel about that.
Well, I shouldn't do that. I will not accept their offer.
But you won't accept it? Well, that's madness, Mr. Trotter.
I'll be suing you soon, Mr. Deltry. You've had me examined by 2 doctors, and they say I'm not mad, don't they?
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Trotter. I didn't mean...
Never mind. Neither did I. Now, but they've got the wind up. Anyone can see that. That's the time to go for them. No quarter, no parley. He wanted a fight. Well, he shall have it.
Very well, Mr. Trotter. I'll let the Major's solicitors know.
I'm afraid, Major, you're not going to like this, but they won't settle.
What do you mean, Jane? It's my claim. I can withdraw it if I like, can't I?
Yes, but the counterclaim... Mr. Trotter wants £1,500 damages.
What did you say?
£1,500.
Good God. But you told me that I'd win my claim and that he'd lose his counterclaim.
I still think so.
Well, his lawyers can't, or they wouldn't ask. What was the sum? Still can't believe it. Did you really say £1,500?
I'm afraid I did. If you like, I'll speak to my father about it.
I wish you would. £1,500. 1,500. That's a bloodsucker.
Well, Father, what do you say?
There's something very odd about this case, Jane. If Trotter won his counterclaim, which is very doubtful, he'd never get more than £50 or £100 at the most. Why does he ask 1,500? It doesn't make sense. Either the Major or Trotter is keeping something back, but which I just don't know. One thing I'm certain of, you don't know the whole truth yet.
But what's the Major to do?
Well, he'll have to fight, won't he? But be sure he's not keeping something back from you. I've never been wrong yet when I felt there was something behind a case. But which side's it on? That's the question.
Oh, thank you, Father. I'll have a careful talk with the Major.
Well, Jane, it was very good of your father to tell me not to pay £1,500 for nothing, but quite frankly, I couldn't do it if I wanted to. Well, what happens now? We go to court, I suppose. Who's going to appear for me? Yes, Digby?
Well, I thought Prunella would be as good as anyone, Father.
Keep it in the family, eh? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. No, I certainly didn't.
I can easily brief someone else.
No, of course not. If I've got to have a case, I might as well have 2 pretty girls to fight it for me. Who's appearing for Trotter?
Mr. Deltry tells me he's instructing Mr. Larpent.
What's he like? Will Prunella be able to cope with him?
Oh, certainly. I can best describe him by saying he's in a perpetual state of being very much obliged indeed.
I'm most obliged to my learned friend.
Not at all.
Mr. Larpent, I'd much prefer you to get on with the case instead of exchanging pleasantries with Miss Coombe. I'm very much obliged, Your Honour.
Your Honour, I submit that it is for the defendant to begin. He admits the machine is my client's, that it's in his possession, and that he hasn't returned it.
And what do you say to that, Mr. Larpent? Your Honour, if my learned friend will forgive my crossing swords with her on this particular issue, I would say this. All that is admitted is a demand and a failure to return, not a refusal. If I may take an extreme case, suppose Your Honour had borrowed an article from a friend, and the friend came to collect it and asked Your Honour for it, but Your Honour was unable to return it because you were dead. Would that be unlawful detention? I venture to submit not. But may I at once add that that was merely an example, and we all hope, for my part, most profoundly, that Your Honour will live to grace the bench, if I may respectfully say so, for many a long day. That's very nice of you, Mr. Larpent, but I'd prefer you to get on with the case instead of wishing me long life. I want to finish this case while I'm still young enough to try it. Of course, Your Honour. Well, suppose Your Honour were just asleep and did not hear, or suppose you were ill and, though you heard the request, you could not comply with it. Surely that would not be detention. There must be a refusal to deliver up. There was a failure to deliver up at your client's own house where the mowing machine was at that moment. Well, Your Honour, if Your Honour, with all Your Honour's experience, the benefit of which we in this court have had, and if I may respectfully say so, I hope we'll have for a long time. If Your Honor thinks that, I will accept that the burden of proof is on my client.
Very well, Mr. Larpent. Then you begin.
If Your Honor thinks it. The claim is, if I may say so, a very simple one. The only issue is whether the defendant actually refused to return the machine.
Has he returned it not?
He has not, Your Honor. But there is a reason. It is all bound up, if I may say so, with the counterclaim. That, I venture to say, is the nub of the matter. Major Buttonstep said, and repeated twice in the presence of a police officer, that my client was either mad or that he had stolen the machine. Now, I hope I'm not one of those advocates, Your Honor, who say of this slander, I cannot think of anything more grave that the plaintiff could have said. He could, for example, have called my client a murderer or a blackmailer. He could have said he was a robber of offertory boxes, that he kidnapped children or was trying to poison his wife. He did none of these things. He said he had stolen a mowing machine or was mad. A lie goes round the world, it has been said, while truth is putting her boots on. Do you think that Mrs. Temperley, who keeps the village post office and store, would not soon hear about it? What credit will the plaintiff get at her shop? He may be honest, but if so, he is mad. Lunatics are not the best customers. He may be sane, but if so, he is a thief. No credit for him. And what about the local inn, where he may wish to repair for a quick drink? Can't Your Honor see the nudges and the looks and hear the whispers when he comes in? Won't the landlord make sure he has his money before he hands over the pint?
Forgive me, Mr. Larpent, but every landlord ought to do that if he wants to be sure of his money. An innkeeper cannot sue for a debt in respect of beer, cider, or perry to be consumed on the premises.
That's my point, Your Honor. In most cases, a landlord will be prepared to take a risk.
And what is the defense to the claim for slander?
Only privilege, Your Honor. And my answer to privilege is malice. If Major Buttonstep had not been actuated by malice when he spoke the words, he would have apologized for them, but not a word of apology or withdrawal. Did he write a letter to Constable Glossop and say that my client had not stolen the machine and was not mad? No, he did not. I ask myself, why not? I ask Your Honor, why not? Why not, I repeat?
And I wish you wouldn't, Mr. Larpent. I got the point the first time.
I'm so sorry, Your Honor. It's difficult for an advocate to know what facts are retained in the learned judge's mind and what are not.
And look, Mr. Larpent, as far as I can see, the facts in this case could be stated in about 50 words. That would take me about 20 seconds to say. You've been going for 20 minutes.
I do hope I'm not wearying, Your Honor.
Well, as you ask me, you are, Mr. Larpent.
Very well, then, Your Honor, that is all I wish to say to Your Honor about the facts. As to the law, however, I have brought a number of authorities which may interest Your Honor.
What point of law arises?
That depends, Your Honor, but I think it possible that as few slander actions are tried in the county court, Your Honor might care for me to refresh Your Honor's memory, if I might respectfully put it that way, with the main ingredients of this cause of action.
If you simply wish to deliver a lecture on the law of slander, Mr. Larpent, I need not trouble you. No doubt the Council of Legal Education would be grateful for any offers you care to make to them.
Your Honor, I do hope Your Honor doesn't think that I was implying.
I do think, Mr. Larpent, that that is exactly what you were implying.
Oh, Your Honor, I'm so very sorry. I'll call Mr. Trotter straight away. Mr. Trotter, please.
What is your full name?
Daniel Trotter.
Take the book in your right hand.
Tell me, Mr. Trotter, where is the machine now?
In my garden.
Are you prepared to return it to the plaintiff?
Certainly.
When?
When he's paid me the damages which a judge orders. I am not mad. I did not steal his mowing machine. And it was a slander to say I was one or did the other.
That's for his honor to say. The learned judge might, for example, I do not say for a moment he will, but the learned judge might say that the plaintiff was protected by what we lawyers call privilege.
Yes, you did say something about that when I was in your chambers. Remind me, please.
Now, Mr. Larpent and Mr. Trotter, I'm not prepared to listen to this conversation any longer. Mr. Trotter, you were asked a perfectly proper question. Kindly answer it.
I'm afraid I've forgotten it now.
Well, I'm not surprised. The question was, when will you hand over the machine if I do not award damages to you for slander?
But I've never considered such a possibility.
Well, consider it now, please.
What, here and now, standing in this witness box?
Certainly.
Well, I don't think I could, Your Honor. My heart's beating like I don't know what. How can I really consider anything from here?
You may sit down if you prefer it.
Oh, but the seats are so uncomfortable. I I ache all over as it is.
If you are trying to be funny, Mr. Trotter, you will get into very serious trouble.
I shouldn't dream of such a thing, Your Honour. But you frighten me more than ever now. How I shall be able to continue my evidence, I really don't know. You see, Your Honour, I've never been in a court before, let alone in a witness box, and I find it a very unnerving experience. It's easy enough to forget things and get things wrong in ordinary conversation, but I wonder everything didn't fly out of my head as soon as I took the oath. I'm just an ordinary man who goes about his business.
That will do, Mr. Trotter.
Who goes about his business in an ordinary way and who doesn't...
Be quiet, Mr. Trotter. You are certainly not tongue-tied. But I do, as it happens, realize that witnesses may be very nervous and that in consequence their minds may go blank all of a sudden. Yes. And occasionally people even faint.
Oh, great.
You can leave it to me to see that you're fully protected. Now, try to pull yourself together and answer this question. If you get no damages, when will you return the mowing machine? Well?
My mind's gone blank.
Now look here, Mr. Trotter.
Now you're threatening me again. It isn't easy for me, is it? First you threaten me, and then you say you will help me, and then you threaten me again. Oh dear, I believe I feel faint.
Let the witness have a chair.
I don't like the idea.
Sit down, sir.
Supposing it tips over, who'll pay the damages?
Let the chair be placed outside the witness box. Yes, what is it, Mr. Larpent?
Forgive me, Your Honour. I only wish to remind Mr. Trotter that he is still on oath, even though he's not actually in the witness box. I trust Your Honour will forgive me for intervening, but I have known a witness who did not appreciate that fact.
Oh, very well. Now, suppose we get on. Mr. Trotter, if you don't get any damages, when will you return the machine?
Could I have a glass of water, please?
Very well. Do you feel all right now?
No.
What's the matter?
Well, it's the atmosphere, Your Honour.
Oh, open some windows, please. Is that better?
Oh, I didn't mean that kind of atmosphere. I meant the general atmosphere of the court. As a matter of fact, it's going to get a bit chilly with those windows open.
Mr. Locke,
Your Honour.
I hope your client understands that if he's being impertinent, I shall not hesitate to use my powers under section...
I think Your Honour means section 139.
Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, the more important part of that seems to be repealed.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honour.
Oh, this is odd. I can still fine under section 139, but the power of imprisonment appears to be removed. No, I see. For some reason, I'm given the power of imprisonment by section 29 of the 1956 Act, while the power of fining remains under section 139 of the 1934 Act. Oh, well, however that may be, your client must remember that both powers exist. Now, Mr. Trotter, when will you hand back the machine if you get no damages?
Well, it's Major Buttonstep's mower, and I really don't see why he shouldn't have it.
Thank you, Mr. Trotter, that is all.
Oh, thank
you. No,
you.
don't go away. I expect Miss Coombe would like to ask you some questions.
Mr. Trotter, has your behaviour in court been a fair guide to your behaviour outside it?
By no means. You'll find me quite normal and ordinary outside court, as I was telling His Honour. But I've got the jitters in here all right.
Have you ever had mumps?
Certainly not.
Did you not tell my client first that you had mumps in the house, and then that you had them yourself?
Yes, I did say something of the kind.
It was untrue.
Naturally.
Why did you tell my client an untruth?
Well, I wanted to put him off.
Why?
It was not convenient to return the mower at that time.
Why didn't you say that instead of telling a lie?
Major Buttonstep's attitude was provocative. I'm quite a peaceable person unless I'm provoked, but then I may become awkward.
So, you became awkward to Major Buttonstep?
I hope so.
Don't you think he might have mistaken your awkwardness for mental derangement?
I don't see why he should. A lot of people are awkward. That doesn't mean that they're mad. Have you ever been in to buy a stamp and the clerk just ignores you? Doesn't say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I've got to do something else before I can serve you," but just takes no notice of you whatever? Well, that's awkward, if anything is. But the people who do it aren't mad.
But why did you make such difficulties about returning the machine?
I was being awkward.
Were you more than usually awkward?
Now, that's a difficult question. I was more awkward than usual.
You admit that?
Certainly. Usually I'm not awkward at all.
But when you are awkward, you're not usually so awkward as this.
Now, I didn't say that.
Well, are you?
I couldn't say. What seems awkward to some people doesn't worry other people at all. I mean, some people won't let it be awkward, if you see what I mean. And if the Major hadn't kept on asking for his machine back, I shouldn't have had the chance to be awkward to him.
At any rate, you admit that you were particularly awkward to my client.
I admit I was awkward. I'm not prepared to agree to any adjectives or adverbs or whatever they are. Awkward I intended to be and awkward I was, and that's an end of it. If the plaintiff had only said to the policeman, "Mr. Trotter's being awkward," I would have had no complaint at all against him. I'd have been glad to hear him say it, because if he said I was being awkward, it meant that he felt I was being awkward. And when I'm being awkward, I like people to feel it.
You wanted to annoy my client?
Certainly.
Do you think you succeeded?
Oh, I'm quite sure of it. I mean, look at him. He's bursting with rage even at this moment.
Behave yourself, Mr. Trotter. You're not to insult people in the court.
I was only being awkward, Your Honour.
Well, you're not going to be awkward within the precincts of this court, or I shall be forced to
Section
exercise
29 or Section 139. I forget which.
Mr. Lop. Your Honour. I don't like to deal with litigants for contempt of court during the progress of a case, but I cannot overlook his conduct any more. I shall fine him £5. That is under Section 139, Mr. Trotter.
Hang on.
If he misbehaves again, I shall send him to prison. That will be under Section 29.
Quite all.
Now, do let us get on.
So, you intended to make my client angry, and you think you succeeded?
Yes.
A pretty poor return for the kindness he'd shown you. Don't you think that the average person would think such ingratitude could only be the product of a warped mind?
Well, of course, there isn't an average person. Everyone, however ordinary, has some peculiarity of mind or body which most people don't have. Your average person is just a fiction.
Thank you for the lecture. Now answer this, please. Do you not think that the ordinary man in the street would have thought you were out of your mind if you treated him like that?
That's the same question again. There isn't an ordinary man in the street. Look, if you looked out of that window, you'd see, well, say half a dozen people. Well, one of them would perhaps suffer from asthma. Another would be claustrophobic. Another would have indigestion, and another...
That will do, Mr. Trotter. You are, of course, in a sense, perfectly right. There is no average man. But you know quite well what Miss Coombe is referring to. The people whose peculiarities are not pronounced, who are, in fact, as near to the notional average man as one can have. What effect do you think your behavior would have had on such a person?
He'd have been annoyed.
Yes, we all know that. But what Miss Coombe is asking you is, would not such a person reasonably have thought you were out of your mind?
Not more than anyone else. We're all out of our mind to some extent. Everyone, that is, except the average person, who, of course, doesn't exist.
Any further questions, Miss Coombe?
No, thank you, Your Honour.
Now, Constable Glossop, please.
What is your full name?
Now, Constable Glossop, how would you describe Major Buttonstep's condition when he said that?
Condition, sir?
Was he calm or otherwise?
He was annoyed, sir.
Did you get the impression that he meant what he said, or did you think he was too angry to think what he was saying?
Oh, I think he meant it, sir.
Thank you, Constable Glossop.
And, officer, what view did you take of Mr. Trotter's behaviour?
Well, I thought it very odd, miss. Ma'am.
You should address your remarks to His Honour. You thought it very odd.
I did, Your Honour.
Had you ever known a person to behave as Mr. Trotter behaved?
Never, Your Honour.
Did he sound normal?
He sounded normal, Your Honour. but he didn't behave normal.
Did you think he was sane, officer?
I must say I wondered, Your Honor.
What about the machine? Did you think he might have stolen it?
Well, Your Honor, I didn't think he could have stolen it because it was lent to him. But it was possible he made away with it, converted it.
Did you think he had converted it?
I can't say that I did, miss. I mean, Your Honor,
Why not?
because he admitted he'd had it. He was living in the house. He couldn't help but be found out if he'd sold it or anything.
Then why did you think he was behaving as he did?
I couldn't think for the life of me.
Thank you. And that is all.
Unless, perhaps, officer, he was trying to be awkward. That would have explained it, wouldn't it?
It could have been that, sir.
Thank you, officer. That, Your Honor, is the defendant's case.
I'll call the plaintiff straight away.
What is your full name?
Now, Major Buttonstep, when you said that a defendant had either stolen the machine or was mad, what did you believe?
I believe what I said to be true. I still believe it.
Thank you. That is all.
Major Buttonstep, you still believe it to be true, do you?
Certainly.
So you believe he's stolen your machine?
Well, I haven't got it back, have I? We've only got his word that he's still got it. If he's sane, I don't believe he has still got it. And if he's still got it, I think he's mad.
Well, it can easily be tested. We can all go down to the house and see if it's there.
Oh, I see. Well, if we do that, perhaps I can be allowed to take it away, if it's there.
That's another matter.
Why shouldn't he take it away, if it's there?
With the greatest possible respect, I'm entitled to address Your Honor on the matter first.
All right, Mr. Larpent, address me now, please. Why shouldn't I give judgment for the plaintiff for the return of the machine straight away?
What, Your Honor, in the middle of cross-examining the plaintiff?
Certainly.
But you can't do that in the middle of the plaintiff's cross-examination.
Can't I, Mr. Larpent? You're just going to hear me.
Very well then, Your Honor. I will reserve my client's rights for the Court of Appeal, and I ask Your Honor to make a note of my most respectful protest.
I will do so, Mr. Larpent.
Jane, you must stop him. Believe me, I know the form. I don't care whether he's right or wrong, whether I get my mowing machine back or not. But I'm not going to the House of Lords or anywhere else. I'd rather lose the case. Tell your sister to stop him.
All right. Brunella, stop him. Say you don't want judgment yet.
Very well.
There. Mr. Larpent, I think that will enable you to argue the point in the Court of Appeal or the Divisional Court or wherever you like to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, my client would rather wait until the end of the case for the return of his mower.
So you think I'm wrong too, do you?
No, indeed, Your Honor. I'm quite sure Your Honor is right.
Then what are you worrying about?
My client doesn't want this case to go to a higher court, even though he wins there.
Very well. As neither of you want me to give judgment at this stage, I won't do so. But in view of the fact that I was proposing to take a course to which you objected, Mr. Larpent, would you like the whole case to be reheard before another judge?
Indeed, not as far as I'm concerned, but perhaps I'd better ask my client. In saying that, I do assure Your Honor that I do not intend the least disrespect, Your Honor, and that I personally hope that Your Honor will continue with the case. I know that Your Honor will not be unfairly prejudiced by anything that has happened. It is not as if there were a jury.
Oh, do consult your client, please, Mr. Larpent. I'm quite sure that you are incapable of the least disrespect to the court.
Your Honor is very kind. I'm most obliged.
Well, do consult your client.
If Your Honor pleases, I will do so immediately. I am most grateful to Your Honor for the opportunity. If I may say so...
No, Mr. Larpent, you may not consult your client, please.
At once, Your Honor. If Your Honor will allow me to take him outside the court so that I can explain to him the full implications...
I will allow anything if you will consult your client.
Very good of Your Honor. Then, with Your Honor's permission, I will withdraw...
Go away, Mr. Larpent. Kindly take your client outside the court and explain matters to him.
At once, Your Honor.
And don't let's waste any more time.
Now, Mr. Larpent, what is all this in aid of?
The judge has offered you a new trial before a different judge.
Why? One's enough, isn't it?
The reason is because he had proposed to do something irregular. You see, by offering you a new trial, he prevents your complaining of his behavior if you decide to go on with the case before him.
Wily old devil. Where did you learn that trick?
Mr. Trotter, I don't think you should speak of the learned judge like that.
Why not? You won't tell him, will you?
Of course not.
Okay, we'll go on.
Very well, I'll inform the judge.
Well, Mr. Larpent?
My client will be delighted if Your Honor will be good enough to go on with the case.
Very well.
Look here, I didn't say delighted, Mr. Deltry. I only said okay.
It's all right, Mr. Trotter. It's just the legal way of putting it.
Now, let's get on. Where were we?
I was cross-examining the plaintiff about his belief. Will you go back into the box, please, Major Buttonstep? Now, suppose the machine is at Mr. Trotter's house. Do you say on your oath that you think he is a lunatic?
Well, certainly I do. Why should a sane man cause all this bother and expense?
You've heard his explanation that he wanted to be awkward. Don't you believe it?
Well, I think that anyone who wanted to be as awkward as Mr. Trotter was to me must be out of his mind.
Do you still say that, although doctors have examined him and found him to be sane?
In that case, I think the doctors want examining.
That is your answer, is it? That the doctors are insane?
Well, I don't see how any sane man who was told how Mr. Trotter had behaved could think that he was sane.
But your solicitor and counsel have admitted that Mr. Trotter is sane.
Well, perhaps he's recovered. Well, he doesn't give much sign of it.
No, that won't do, Major Buttonstep. Your advisers have admitted that the defendant was at all material times sane.
I don't know what that means.
It means that they admit he was sane while you were talking to Constable Glossop.
Well, I repeat that if he was sane, then he's made away with the machine.
But your advisers admit that he hasn't made away with it.
Well, they can admit what they like. I'm telling you what I believe.
But you can't.
But I have.
And why shouldn't he? It is admitted on behalf of Major Buttonstep that Mr. Trotter is in fact neither dishonest nor insane. But that doesn't mean that the plaintiff doesn't and didn't believe him to be one or the other.
If Your Honour pleases. Now, Major Buttonstep, did you not appreciate when you were speaking in front of Constable Glossop that it was a very serious thing to say a man has stolen your machine?
Well, less serious than stealing it. How would you like it if a complete stranger borrowed something from you and then treated you as Mr. Trotter treated me?
You mustn't ask me questions.
That's quite true, Mr. Larpent. But I would have been interested to hear the answer. I think we'll adjourn for lunch now, and during the adjournment you can ascertain if the machine is still on the defendant's premises. I'll sit again at 1:30.
Major Buttonstep, you now have seen that the defendant has not made away with the mower.
Well, he's got it now, but how am I to know that he hasn't brought it back for the purposes of the case?
Are you suggesting that my client, in fact, converted the machine?
I've no idea what you mean by that, but I'm suggesting nothing. But I'm telling you that in my belief, your client is either dishonest or insane.
You've said that before.
And I'll say it again, whenever you ask me the same question.
That, Your Honour, is the plaintiff's case.
Well, Mr. Larpent, what have you got to say on behalf of Mr. Trotter?
But isn't it for Miss Combe to address you first, Your Honour?
It would be if I were against her client, Mr. Larpent.
Oh, Your Honour, I can see I have a very difficult task ahead of me.
You have, Mr. Larpent, but don't let me depress you too much.
If Your Honour pleases. Now, in this case, Your Honour, which, if I may say so, with the greatest possible respect, Your Honour has listened to with the patience we have become accustomed to in Your Honour's court. And in my submission, therefore, which I hope has not wearied Your Honour too much, there should be judgment for Mr. Trotter.
You've only been 1 hour, Mr. Larpent. There are 24 in the day.
Your Honour is very kind.
Oh, I hadn't noticed it. Now, in this case, I have come to a clear conclusion. Apart from his perhaps rather ill-advised, though quite understandable attempt to regain his own property, the plaintiff's conduct in all the matters relating to this case has been exactly what one would expect of a decent, fair-minded, generous Englishman. The defendant's behavior, on the other hand, has, in my view, been that of a lunatic. I haven't the least doubt that any ordinary person placed in Major Buttonstep's position would certainly have thought, and probably have said, this man is either a thief or a lunatic. And now, if you please, Mr. Trotter, who's caused all this trouble by his deliberate awkwardness, has the temerity to come to this court and ask for damages because Major Buttonstep said what most people would have said. The facts have only to be stated to show how ludicrous the defendant's claim is. I am satisfied that, though angry, the plaintiff honestly believed that what he said was true. The counterclaim for slander accordingly fails. As far as the claim for the return of the machine is concerned, there is no defense whatever to it, and the defendant has behaved disgracefully in not returning the plaintiff's property to him. I shall accordingly order the defendant to deliver up the machine to the plaintiff immediately. And in addition, I shall award £30 damages for the detention. The costs, scale 4. Yes, what is it, Mr. Larpent? You aren't asking for a stay of execution pending appeal, are you?
Well, Your Honour, with the greatest possible respect, although I can tell from Your Honour's voice, if Your Honour will forgive me for saying so, that such an application is not likely to find favour with Your Honour. I am quite sure that Your Honour will listen to me with that patience for which Your Honour is, if I may say so, renowned. Not only here, but if you will forgive me referring to the matter throughout the temple.
That will do, Mr. Larpent. What is there to appeal about?
The punitive damages for one thing, Your Honour.
Your client is lucky I didn't award £400 damages against him. I shall grant no stay of any kind. You must go to the Court of Appeal if you want one.
But, Your Honour, as Your Honour has ordered the immediate return of the machine, there won't be time to get to the Court of Appeal to ask for a stay of execution.
And a good thing, too. And thank you for reminding me. I shall authorize the court to give priority to the issue of the warrant for delivery of this machine. Miss Coombe.
Your Honour.
If your client chooses to go into the office and issue the warrant, I will say that a bailiff should go and take away the machine at once.
I am very much obliged to Your Honour.
I'm not going to have this, Mr. Larpent. The only way to prevent it, Mr. Trotter, is for us to get to the Court of Appeal in London before the bailiff can get to your house.
Well, what are we waiting for, Mr. Larpent?
Your Honour, I hope Your Honour will not think that what I'm about to do implies the slightest criticism of Your Honour's judgment.
I don't mind if it does, as long as you do it outside.
Good work, Jane. That'll give Mr. Trotter and his legal advisors something to think about.
Good Lord, Digby, look, there they are, rushing into a car.
Look, Jane, they're off.
Quick, Major. Brunella? Yes, Jane? We must chase them. I'll explain on the way. Whose is the fastest car?
John's can do 120 on the M1.
Okay, mine. Come on, everybody.
Come on, then. Quick, Major.
What's all this about?
We're obviously going to London.
London?
Yes, to the Court of Appeal.
Appeal?
Please jump in, Major. I'll explain on the way.
Come on,
Come on, Major, get in.
Thank
you, Digby, in the van. Yes, right.
But surely they can't do anything without our being notified.
Well, they might get the order stayed for a day or two.
I can catch them with this. Shall I ram them?
Good heavens, no. If we can get Prunella to the Court of Appeal in time, she should be able to put such a spanner in their works they can't do any more about it.
I must say that you girls did very well before Judge Smooth. I'm most grateful to you. But I can't say I like the sound of the Court of Appeal. That's the way things begin to happen. You win in one court, lose in the next, and in the third court, both sides are so fed up that they compromise. And once again, only the lawyers win.
Oh, if only John would step on it. I think we'll be able to stop any real fight in the Court of Appeal. What is that 120 you mentioned, Digby?
Well, if John tried 120 here, we'd land up at the mortuary, not the law court.
There they are.
Oh, just keep in touch the whole time. That's splendid. Here's the court. Brunella, be here in a moment. She's just robing. Oh, here she comes. Are they still sitting?
Yes? Now, what is it, Mr. Larpent? We were just going to rise. Have you an application to make?
May it please your lordships, I have an urgent ex parte application to make to stay execution on an order of His Honour Judge Smooth until I can serve notice of appeal and of application for a stay.
And what is the nature of the action?
My lords, it was an action for the return of the mowing machine. The learned judge took a very strong view. He not only ordered the return of the machine, but when I told him my client wished to appeal, he said he'd authorize the bailiff to go and take the machine from my client straight away.
I must say, that seems rather high-handed of the learned judge. He may have been right in his judgment, but what harm could 2 or 3 days delay do?
Yes, precisely, my lord.
Oh, good Lord, here we go again. It's the Titchborne case all over again.
If I may say so with the greatest respect, my lord, the learned judge seemed determined to prevent an appeal.
I knew it. Why ever did I start it?
If the plaintiff gets the machine back before the appeal is heard, the appeal might be useless. The plaintiff might, for example, sell the machine.
Sell my own machine?
Why shouldn't he, my lord? It's his machine.
And what are you doing here, Miss Coombe?
I represent the successful plaintiff whose machine it is, my lord.
Well, we can't hear you. This is an ex parte application.
Precisely, my lords. My learned friend has no business to be here, if I may say so without offence. I may tell your lordship that she chased us all the way from Copplestone.
I don't think we want to hear about that. But what is this case all about? Why is there all this urgency? over a mowing machine.
May I say something, my lord?
I submit not, my lords.
Whose machine is it, Mr. Larpent?
I submit that doesn't matter for the purpose of this application.
Perhaps you would leave it to us to judge whether it matters or not. Whose machine is it?
Well, my lords, as a matter of fact, if your lordships feel that at this stage it is desirable for your lordships to know the exact position as far as ownership goes in regard to the machine, I'm in a position, if your lordships really think it will help, to enlighten your lordships on that point. But in my respectful submission, my lords...
My lord asked you a very simple question. Why don't you answer it, Mr. Larpent?
My lord, I was about to do so. I do assure your lordships that it is no wish of mine or of my client that your lordship should not be put in full possession of the facts, insofar as they may assist the court to arrive at a just determination of this matter. Perhaps I might tell your lordships that the learned judge, in giving judgment...
Whose machine is it, Mr. Larpent?
Who does it belong to, my lord?
Exactly. Who does it belong to?
There should be no difficulty in telling your lordships that. No difficulty at all.
I agree there should be no difficulty, but apparently there is.
I hope your lordships don't think I'm trying to evade the question.
Well, if you're not, it's a very creditable imitation.
Miss Coombs says it's her client's machine. Is that correct?
I thought your lordships refused to hear my learned friend.
Well, we couldn't help hearing that much, and from your reticence, well, perhaps reticence isn't quite the right word. From the way you deal with the matter, it appears to me to have been just as well that we did hear Miss Coombs. I gather the machine belongs to the plaintiff and that the learned judge ordered the defendant to deliver it up to the plaintiff straight away. Is that correct?
Well, roughly speaking, yes, my lords.
What's rough about it? Either it's right or it isn't.
It is correct, my lord.
Well, what's wrong with the learned judge's order, then?
My client wishes to appeal against it.
That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the order.
My lords, I can tell your lordships that in the witness box the defendant admitted the machine belonged to the plaintiff and that he had refused to deliver it up to him in order to be awkward. I submit that the only object of an appeal is to continue the defendant's attempts to be awkward.
Is the first part of what Miss Coombs said correct, Mr. Larpent?
It is, my lord.
Well, Mr. Larpent, your client should be reminded that this court can be quite awkward, too, if the occasion demands it. This seems to be a disgraceful case as far as the defendant is concerned. I'm not surprised the learned judge was indignant.
No, I wouldn't have ventured to suggest that the learned judge was indignant, only that he took a strong view.
Well, you can say that I'm indignant, Mr. Larpent.
This application will be dismissed. The sooner the plaintiff is given back his property, the better.
I ask for costs, my lord.
I submit my learned friend can't. Theoretically, she isn't here, and your lordships haven't heard a word she said.
But from the practical point of view, if she hadn't been here and intervened, we might have stayed the learned judge's order.
Well, then, my lords, if it isn't too late, I ask you to stay it now. If your lordships oughtn't to have heard Miss Coombs, then to all intents and purposes, your lordships haven't heard Miss Coombs.
But we've heard you, Mr. Larpent, and you've admitted the machine is the plaintiff's.
Yes, I see that, my lord, but my learned friend shouldn't have her costs. She came here at her own peril.
Quite considerable if she raced all the way from Coppleston. It's a good 20 miles. I know the road.
I'm glad she arrived safely, my lords, but I submit that her client must bear the costs of her doing so.
Well, I don't agree. But for her timely intervention, we might have made a wrong order. It would be unjust if Major Buttonstep had to pay for it.
I entirely agree.
But, my lord...
No, Mr. Larpent. The application will be dismissed with costs.
I hope it won't rain before the machine is returned.
Thank you, my lords. See you outside, Major.
Oh, well done, Prunella. I'm bound to say all the judges in this case behave very differently from what I expected.
And what about your counsel, Father?
And solicitor.
Well, I haven't had the bill yet.
There won't be one if Mr. Trotter pays up.
You mean that I'll have nothing to pay whatever?
Nothing at all.
Well, the law seems to have changed a bit. On the awkward side for Mr. Trotter.
I wonder what he's doing at the moment.
Yes. I wish I could see.
Mr. Deltray, I don't think Major Buttonstep will lend his mowing machine again in a hurry.
Well, if you won't think it offensive of me, I should rather have thought you wouldn't borrow one again.
Why not? I can always return it if I'm asked.
I hadn't thought of that.
I wasn't born yesterday, you know. It's not the first time I borrowed a mowing machine.
I hope that the previous occasions weren't so expensive.
To be quite frank, they weren't expensive at all. I can honestly say that this is the most expensive, friendly loan I've ever had. The gentlemen in Jermyn Street have still something to learn. Talking which, if you won't think me offensive, no doubt you'd like a cheque.
I should be much obliged.
Well, here you are. This will cover everything, I think.
I'm sorry it's so much.
Well, I can't say that you didn't warn me.
And I must say you take your defeat very well.
No point in doing anything else, is there? I could sit down and howl, or refuse to pay your bill, or hit you over the head with my walking stick. No, please don't move. I can reach you very well from here. But that wouldn't do either of us any good. So instead, I just pay. Oh, by the way, I'd like Major Buttonstep to have his money as soon as possible. I want him to feel that, however he thought of me before, there's a bit of the gentleman in me, even if you have to dig for it.
I think you're most wise. It'll be much easier for you as neighbours.
Neighbours? Good heavens, you don't think I'm going to stay in Buttonstep anymore, even if I bought a machine of my own?
Well, if you change your mind, there's a very good place for gardening things in the High Street.
I suppose you couldn't lend me one by any chance?
Well, as a matter of fact, most unfortunately, mine's out of commission.
Of course, Major Buttonstep's got his back by now. Oh, but I rather doubt
They
it.
can be hired.
Well, there's hire purchase.
No credit sale.
I expect Major Buttonstep's using his. Well, give him my regards.
Yes. Yes, I won't forget.
Well, it works perfectly. Good.
Stop it, Digby!
Well, my dears, I must say that this case has somewhat changed my views about the law. And if you two girls are prepared to risk your lives to these two sons of mine, you'll have my blessing. I hope you feel happy about it too, Sir George.
I'm delighted, Major. I'm sure my daughters are very lucky. But what an extraordinary case. And I've been completely wrong about it. I felt quite certain there was more behind it, Jane, but I've been proved wrong.
Oh, poor Mr. Trotter. We owe all our happiness to him, and all he's had out of it is a large bill of costs. I feel almost sorry for him.
And he's had to leave the neighbourhood into the bargain. I do feel sorry for him, too, in spite of his behaviour.
Oh, I expect he'll be all right. The 21st of July, then? Is that all right with you, sir, and you, Father?
The 21st of
21st
July.
of July.
Start it up again, Digby.
Is Mr. Walker in?
It's in his room, sir. Who shall I say?
Digby Buttonstep. But don't bother. I know his room.
Come in.
My dear Trotter. Oh, I beg your pardon. Walker. You were magnificent. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, not at all. For an out-of-work actor and author, I think I've done very well. It's the longest and best-paid run I've ever had. Rent and food free, 15 guineas a week and all expenses. It's I who should thank you. What made you think of the idea?
Well, it was the girl's father, Mr. Justice Cool, who gave it to me when he said that father's and his family's trouble was that they'd lost too many cases. See, I thought that if we could force him into a case where he'd have a nice, easy win, a case even a Buttonstep couldn't lose, he might see things in a different light. And he has. But you were quite splendid.
Well, it was easy. And I'd nothing to lose. I'd everything to gain. I didn't tell a single lie in the witness box. I think it was a good idea to grow a beard. No one's going to associate the clean-shaven and very ordinary George Walker, always at your service, with the bearded and awkward Daniel Trotter. By the way, when you're married, are you going to tell your wives?
Well, not for a long time, if ever. If they'd known the whole thing was engineered, they couldn't have been parties to it. They might feel unhappy if they knew.
Well, I'm glad to say I don't feel at all unhappy. I can't wait for the next job like it.
Could I see Miss Coombe, please? I have an appointment.
Major Buttonstep, this way, please.
Oh, hello, Jane.
Hello. How nice to see you. But I'm sorry it's so urgent. What can I do?
Well, a fellow's just run his lorry into my gate and done no end of damage.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. It must be infuriating. But I suppose you're insured.
Insured be blowed. I'm going to sue the fella.
Step was played by Cecil Parker and Mr. Trotter by Naunton Wayne. Mr. Larpent was played by Rolf Lefevre, Judge Smooth by Philip Lever, and P.C. Glossop by Peter Clawton. Prunella Coombe was played by Gudrun Ure, Jane Coombe by Diana Olson, and Mr. Justice Coombe by Will Layton. Digby Buttonstep was played by John Pullen, John Buttonstep by William Edel, and Archie the Innkeeper by Anthony Vickers. Mr. Deltry was played by Malcolm Hayes, Lord Justice Blake by Derek Birch, and Lord Justice Crewe by Hayden Jones, who also played Dr. Martin.